There we go. Can I call you by like my It depends. Like, what name do you mean? Okay, so what do we do? Hmm. Now I need to. 1 second. I'm setting up my thing. Ah, that sounds horrible. It's like hurt your finger. I made ramen because I haven't had it in a really long time. We just started. So I need your opinion. I have like multiple things that I need to like draw because they've been on my like to-do list for a while. So what do you guys want to see first? Like art trades, or do you want to see the fan art I'm doing, or like um ship art? Feel your finger? Yeah, I don't go to bed till like usually 1 time. The strap, I've been trying to perfect it because with Rio's, his is also a little bit messed up. Um, but I have to perfect it a little bit, and I'm also probably gonna make him new eyelids, like put on his actual eyelids that I've had planned for a while. Just know how to do it. So probably they'll probably be fixed soon too, because I also want to redo. I want to do a lot of things about him. Like I finally want to give him his mohawk once I find like a darker shade of navy. I like to say, um, my favorite thing is um to egg on people in the comment section. Um, that video that I made about like, that dumb video I made today about like, how furry haters think we relate. That video blew up and I kind of felt like, ooh, you look like someone I could egg on to get me more comments. And that's how it worked. And it worked. Okay, I think. So, should we do fan art first, or do you guys want to see ship art? Yeah, I made my mask with my own 2 hands. 1 year and 5 months. So fan art. Mostly it's art for like my friends and people. So I'm like, they're gonna love that. Um, Look at my fan art thing. For people in the video. Mm-hmm. What is one that I haven't been? I was like, I want to hook my AirPods up to or my podcast. Oh, I forgot I put it over here.
Bright sunlight from the darkness of the movie house.
Okay.
I had only two things on my mind: Paul Newman and a ride home. I was wishing I looked
let me
like Paul Newman. He
fix
looks
this.
tough and I don't. But I guess my own looks aren't so bad. I have light brown, almost red hair and greenish gray eyes. I wish they were more gray because I hate most guys that have green eyes. But I have to be content with what I have. My hair is longer than a lot of boys wear theirs, squared off from back and long at the front and sides. But
I'm gonna get school off in another 3 weeks too.
Besides, I look better with long hair. I had a long walk home and no
Where'd my
company, but I
pencil
usually
go?
go anyway. For no
Oh, there it
reason
is.
except I like to watch movies undisturbed so I can get into them and live them with the actors. Yeah. When I see a movie with someone, it's kind of uncomfortable, like having someone read your book over your shoulder. I'm different that way. I mean, my second oldest brother, Soda, who's 16.
He's not like other boys.
Never cracks a book at all. And my oldest brother, Daryl, who we call Derry, works too long.
It took me a while to realize that this person on their riff sheet, it wasn't
And nobody in our gang did
that like their animal, like the ears weren't horns. So for the longest time, I thought they were actually.
Soda tries to understand at least, which is more than Derry does. But then Soda's different from anybody. He understands everything almost. Like
He's
never
not like
tolerated
others.
me all the time the way Derry is, or treating me as if I was 6 instead of 14. I love Soda more than I've ever loved anyone, even Mom and Dad. He's always happy-go-lucky and grinning, while Derry's hard and firm and rarely grins at all. But then, Derry's gone through a lot in his 20 years, grown up too fast. Soda Pop will never grow up at all. I don't know which way is the best. I'll find out one of these days. Anyway, I went on walking home thinking about the movie.
God, I'm gonna kill myself every single time.
You just can't walk alone too much or they'll get jumped, or someone will come by and scream greaser at them, which doesn't make you feel too hot, if you know what I mean. We get jumped by the socials. I'm not sure how you spell it, but it's the abbreviation for the socials. The jet set, the West Side rich kids. It's like the term greaser, which is used to class all us boys on the East Side. We're poorer than the socials in the middle class, and I reckon we're wild.
What are we talking about?
Not like the socials who jump greasers and wreck houses and throw beer blasts for kicks and get editorials in the paper.
Ooh, a play at a school. I love doing plays. Oh no. I'm so good at art, because if I'm not good at art, then I don't really have anything else I'm really good at. So.
Have a gang fight once in a while. I don't mean I do things like that. Derry would kill me if I got into trouble with the police. Since Mom and Dad were killed in an auto wreck, the three of us get to stay together only as long as we behave. So sort of stay out of trouble as much as we can, and we're careful not to get caught when we can't. I only mean that most greasers do things like that, just like we wear our hair long and dress in blue jeans and t-shirts, or leave our shirt tails out and wear leather jackets and tennis shoes or boots.
I have a leather jacket.
I'm not saying that either socials or greasers are better.
After I read this book.
I could have waited to go to the movies until Derry or Soda Pop got off work. And they would have gone with me or driven me there or walked along, although Soda just can't sit still long enough to enjoy a movie, and they bore Derry to death.
He's not like other
life
boys.
Is enough without inspecting other people. Or I could have gotten one of the gang to come along, one of the 4 boys Derry and Soda and I have grown up with and consider family. We're almost as close as brothers. When you grow up in a tight-knit neighborhood like ours, you get to know each other real well. If I had thought about it, I could have called Derry and he would have come by on his way home and picked me up, or Two-Bit Matthews, one of our gang, would have come to get me in his car if I had asked him. Sometimes I just don't use my head. It drives my brother Derry nuts when I do stuff like that, because I'm supposed to be smart. I make good grades and have a high IQ and everything, but I don't use my head.
Me too.
Besides, I like walking. I I about decided I didn't
I
like
just
it so
like
much, though,
acting
that I
like a
started that
dumbass.
dreaded
I
conveyor
I
train.
could be in advanced
It was almost
classes
2
if I
blocks from
wanted
home
to.
then, so I started walking
I
around
just
town.
choose not
I
to
had never
because
been
it's kind
jealous
of
that much
boring
with Johnny after four socials got a hold of
and I
Derry.
get easy
It wasn't
grades.
pretty. Johnny was scared of his own shadow after that. Johnny was 16 then. I knew it wasn't any use, though, to
He was
fast walk
16
Johnny,
now, God.
even before the Corvair pulled up beside me and 5 socials got out. I got pretty scared. I'm kind of small for 14, even though I have a good build. And those
Me
guys
too.
were bigger than me. I automatically hitched my thumbs in my jeans and slouched, wondering if I could get away if I made a break for it. I remembered Johnny, his face all cut up and bruised, and I remembered how he had cried when we found him half conscious in the corner lot. Johnny had it awful rough at home. It took a lot to make him happy.
Really?
I was sweating something fierce, although I was cold. I could feel my palms getting clammy and the perspiration running down my back. I get like that when I'm real scared. I glanced around for a pop bottle or a stick or something.
What is it? I didn't see your question.
The bloods held off 4 guys with a busted pop bottle. But there was nothing.
Have you read
I
Rings
stood
of
there
Fire?
on the wall while they surrounded me. They walked around
I
slowly.
read like the first book, and then I was like, I need to read the second book because I never really got to read it as a kid because I read a lot of Warrior Cats, but I never read Wings of Fire. I don't know, it never really interested me, and it was too long for me. But I'm trying now to read them. I do have a Wings of Fire character though.
I couldn't think of anything to say. There just isn't a lot you can say when you're getting to get mugged. So I kept my mouth shut. Need a haircut, please?
I use a dip pen. I kind of just pick one and then I just roll with that. I'm kind of basic when it comes to using art. I don't use different brushes very much.
I was backing up away from that knife. Of course, I backed right into one of them. They had me down in a second. I had my arms and legs pinned down, and one of them was sitting on my chest with his knees on my elbows. And if you don't think that hurts, you're crazy. I could smell English leather shaving lotion.
It's good. It's really simple and easy.
I wondered foolishly if I would suffocate before they did anything. I was scared so bad I was wishing I would. I fought to get loose and almost did for a second. Then they tightened up on me, and the one on my chest slugged me a couple of times. So I lay still.
Funny boy, there are kids around.
Gasps. A blade was held against my throat. How'd you like that haircut to begin just below the chin?
So dramatic.
It occurred to
It's
me
not
that
that bad.
kill me. I went wild. I started screaming for soda, dairy, anyone. Someone put his hand over my mouth, and I bit it as hard as I could, tasting the blood running through my teeth. I heard a muttered curse and got slugged again, and they were stuffing a handkerchief in my mouth. One of them kept saying, "Shut him up, for Pete's sake, shut him up." Then there were shouts and the pounding of feet, and the socials jumped up and left me lying there, gasping.
I use IBS Paint. I love Star Wars.
I was too dazed to figure it out. Then someone had me under the armpits and was hauling me to my feet. It was Derry.
I actually have, okay, so my brothers, they have like custom made lightsabers. Like, you know, like the professional kind too. Have I stolen it? Yes, yes I have. I don't remember where I put it, but I'll probably find it. Because honestly, it's the coolest thing I've ever found.
He wasn't really. Derry is never sorry for anything he does. It seems funny to me that he should look just exactly like my father and act exactly the opposite from him. My father was only 40 when he died, and he looked 25. And a lot of people thought Derry and Dad were brothers instead of father and son. But they only looked alike. My father was never rough with anyone without meaning to be. Derry is 6'2" and broad-shouldered and muscular. He has dark brown hair that kicks out in front and a slight cowlick in the back, just like Dad's. But Derry's eyes are his own.
I have a really bad cowlick, and it's not even attractive looking. I know, like, every night I have to brush my hair over again, so it doesn't, like, come out weird, and I don't have to, like, style it really hard.
He would be real handsome if his eyes weren't so cold. He doesn't understand anything.
It's okay, I can get past that.
Hard fact. But he uses his head. I sat down again, rubbing my cheek where I'd been slugged the most. Derry jammed his fists in his pockets. They didn't hurt you too bad, did they? They did. I was smarting and aching, and my chest was sore, and I was so nervous my hands were shaking, and I wanted to start falling, but you just don't say that to Derry. I'm okay. Soda pop came loping back. By then I had figured it out.
Ew. Actually, do you want to know what the litter box thing is? So, the litter box thing, right? I was reading something about it. The litter box was for schools during, like, school shootings. So that kids didn't have to, like, risk their lives and, you know, go out into, like, the bathroom. So during school, like, shootings, like real school shootings, they can use a litter box so they can stay in there the longest. That's the theory that's like the actual thing behind litter boxes, not furries. It's for school shootings and school lockdowns, like serious things. And people just twisted it around. It
Soda
bugs
is
me.
handsomer than anyone else I know. Not like Derry. Soda's movie star kind of handsome. Kind of people stop on the street.
Yeah, I look really deep into things so I can like.
Derry, and he's a little slimmer. But he has a finely
Did
drawn,
I delete
sensitive
the
face
ref
that somehow
sheet
manages
for
to
that
be
person?
reckless and thoughtful at the same time. He's got dark
Shit, I
gold
did.
hair that he combs back, long and silky and straight. In the summer, the sun bleaches it to a shining wheat.
Wait, what? Oh, it's Matt Dillon's birthday soon.
Gold.
What's my favorite warrior character? Yellowfang.
Dancing, recklessly laughing eyes that can be gentle and sympathetic one moment and blazing with anger the next. He has dad's eyes, but Soda is one of a kind. He can get drunk in a drag race or dancing without ever getting near alcohol.
Me too.
In our neighborhood, it's rare to find a kid who doesn't drink once in a while, but Soda never touches a drop. He doesn't need to. He gets drunk on just plain living.
Me too. I can get drunk off of plain living too.
He looked at me more closely. I looked away hurriedly because if you want to know the truth, I was starting to bawl. I knew I was as white as I felt and I was shaking like a leaf. Soda just put his hand on my shoulder. Easy, pony boy. I ain't gonna hurt you.
Me too.
I know, I said, but the ground began to blur and
iPad, you need to stop being dramatic.
felt hot tears running down my cheeks. I brushed them away impatiently. Just a little spook, that's all. I drew a quivering breath and quit crying. You just don't cry in front of Derry. Not unless you're hurt like
No.
me, and then that day we found him in the vacant lot.
Oh yeah, The Outsiders movie is such a good movie. I would 10 out of 10 recommend it. Not the fact that I've literally bought the whole version, like the extended version, just so I can see more. It's a thing.
You're crazy, Soda.
I have a problem.
Derry looked as if he'd like to knock our heads together. You're both nuts.
I haven't got to like reading Wattpads about it, but I know it's gonna be good.
Derry stared at him for a second, then cracked a grin. Soda Pop isn't afraid of him like everyone else and enjoys teasing him. I'd just as soon tease a full-grown grizzly, but for some reason, Derry seems to like being teased.
Of course I remember you. I remember like everyone.
Our gang would chase the socials to their car and heave rocks at him.
It's fan art.
They came running toward us now, 4 lean, hard guys. They were all tough as nails and looked it.
It's sad that Lucifer's not on to see this. Caribou, stop scaring me.
Tall and lean, with thick, greasy hair, he kept combed in complicated swirls.
Don't you dare start that, Caribou.
Smart and Soda's best buddy since grade school.
No.
Steve's specialty was cars. He could lift a hubcap quicker and more quietly
No.
than anyone in the neighborhood. But he also
Stop
could
barking.
cars upside down and backward.
No.
He could drive anything on wheels. He and Soda worked at the same gas station. Steve part-time and Soda full-time.
You want to throw hands?
Their station got more
Yeah, that's
customers
what I
than
thought.
any other in town.
Hmm?
Whether that was because Steve was so good with cars or because Soda attracted girls like when he draws flies,
You.
I couldn't tell you.
Come here.
I liked Steve only because he was Soda's best friend. He didn't like me.
Why are you so...
A kid. Soda always took me with them when they went places if they weren't taking girls, and that bugged Steve.
You see this?
It wasn't my fault.
Trying to throw hands. Hey! Hey! It's my drawing!
Two-Bit Matthews was the oldest of
What
the
the?
wisecracker.
There we go.
6 feet tall, stocky in build, and very proud of his long, rusty-colored sideburns. He had gray eyes and a wide grin, and he couldn't stop making funny remarks to save his life.
Sometimes if you like find a really like someone that you know is going to like react really badly, if you just say one word to them, they're always really good because it's really funny because you can just lead on a pointless conversation. You know it's pointless, but then you get more comments and then you get your videos boosted more.
And he was always smarting off the cops. He really couldn't help it. Everything he said was so irresistibly funny that he just had to let the police in on it to brighten up their dull lives. That's the way he explained it to me. He liked
Bark again and see what happens.
For some unfathomable reason, school.
Yeah, throw hands.
He was still a junior at 18 and a half, and he never learned anything. He just went for kicks. I liked him real well because he kept us laughing at ourselves as well as at other things. He reminded me of Will Rogers. Maybe it was the grin. If I had to pick the real character of the gang, it would be
Dallas Winston.
Dally. I used to like to draw his picture when he was in a dangerous mood, for then I could get his personality down.
Warrior Cats is a series about cats that fight.
High cheekbones and a pointed chin, small, sharp animal teeth, and ears like a lynx. His hair was almost white, it was so blonde.
I don't know why people tell me I need more views, because if you literally look at my viewer things on my channel, 1 second. I have, 1 second, this is a big word. 774,911 views in total. Most people don't actually look at my thing.
From a hood wasn't present in Dally. He was as wild as the boys in the downtown. Blue, blazing
There we go.
eyes, cold with the hatred
Picture of the world.
Dally had spent tougher, colder, meaner. The shade of difference that separates a
Who's
greaser
she?
from a hood wasn't present in Dally. He was as wild as the boys in the downtown.
Who's she?
By Tim Shepard's gang.
No, you're fine.
In New York, Dally blew off steam in gang fights, but here, organized gangs are rarities. They're just small bunches of friends who stick together in the warfare between the social classes. A rumble, when it's called, is usually born of a grudge fight, and the opponents just happen to bring their friends along. Well, there are a few named gangs around, like the River Kings and the Tiber Street Tigers, but here in the Southwest, there's no gang rivalry. So Dally, even though he could get into a good fight sometimes, had no specific thing to hate. No rival gang, only socias. And you can't win against them no matter how hard you try, because they've got all the breaks, and even whipping them isn't going to change that fact. Maybe that's why Dallas was so bitter. He had quite a reputation. They have a file on him down at the police station. He'd been arrested, he got drunk, he rode in rodeos, lied, cheated.
Rodeos? I love rodeos.
Jumped small kids, he did everything. I didn't like him, but he was smart. And you had to
You know, I am small. He can jump me for sure.
You can picture a little dark puppy that has been kicked too many times and is lost in a crowd of strangers.
You'd have Johnny Cade.
He was the youngest next to me, smaller than the rest, with a slight build. He had big black eyes and a dark tan.
Poor Johnny.
His hair was jet black and heavily greased and combed to the side, but it was so long that it fell in shaggy bangs across his forehead. He had a nervous, suspicious look in his eyes.
I'm so concerned for Brenda over here. She talking about Boo Boo Bear.
Pet, everyone's kid brother. His father was always beaten him.
What's your question? Oh, you watched Kobe and Sam too? I was just watching their stream. I was just watching a video of theirs.
If it hadn't been for the gang, Johnny would never have known what love and affection are. I wiped my eyes hurriedly.
And this is why I can Johnny.
No, they got away this time, the dirty two-bit went on cheerfully, following the socials every night.
If you think about it,
kids okay?
I'm
okay.
If you really think about it, them just telling you to go die is basically harassment, and you can basically sue them. You know that, right? It's a law.
Everyone sat down to have a smoke and relax. A smoke always lessens.
It's like online harassment and stuff like that.
Cigarette was calming me down. Two-bit cocked an eyebrow. Nice looking bruise.
You can sue them for that to court if you have the evidence.
Two-bit nodded sagely. Nice cut too. Makes you look tough. And tough are two different words. Tough is the same as rough. Tough means cool, sharp, like a tough-looking Mustang or a tough record. In our neighborhood, both are compliments. Steve flicked his ashes at me. What were you doing walking by your lonesome? It took good old Steve to bring up something like that. I was coming home from the movies. I didn't think. You don't ever think Derry broke in.
God, shut your bitch ass up, Derry. No one cares.
With all those good grades you bring home, and you've always got your nose in a book. But do you ever use your head for?
I like them big, strong, and dumb. That's exactly what Derry is.
You should have carried a blade. I just stared at the hole in the toe of my tennis shoe. Me and Derry just didn't dig each other. I could never please him. He was hard at me for carrying a blade if I had carried one. If I brought home B's, he wanted A's, and if I got A's, he wanted to make sure they stayed A's. If I was playing football, I should be in studying. If I was reading, I should.
It's actually really funny too, because if you don't know this, I did find out if you take a screenshot, right, and like they say stuff like, oh, I'm gonna come to your house, or hey, I have this, like someone said that, yeah, and all these people, they're now in my body bag. You can actually take that to court and say, hey, look at this, and people will actually do an investigation on him. Not to mention he'll probably be put in like a mental institution, because if you don't know, that's basically online harassment, right? But that is like saying, oh, I murdered someone and I enjoy it, which is basically, if you don't know, a mental illness, murdering people, clearly.
I'm walking over to the nightly double tomorrow night. Anybody want to come and hunt some action? Steve shook his head. Me and Soda are picking up Evie and Sam.
Well, yeah, mine, the straps got cut off.
Look at me the way he did right then. I wasn't gonna ask if I could come. I'd never tell Soda because he really likes Steve a lot, but sometimes I can't stand Steve Rand. I mean it. Sometimes I hate him. Derry sighed, just like I knew he would. Derry never had time to do anything anymore. I'm working tomorrow night. Dolly looked at the rest of us. How about y'all? Two-Bit? Johnny Cake, you and Pony want to come? Me and Johnny will come, I said. I knew Johnny wouldn't open his mouth unless it was...
It's actually really funny because in the movie,
Dad.
Johnny said that and not Pony.
School night. Derry was real good about letting me go to places on the weekends. On school nights, I could hardly leave the house. I was planning
Me
on
too.
getting boozed up tomorrow night, Two-Bit said.
That's why I have professional sneaking out.
Steve was looking at Dally's hand. His ring was
I like to mention people are not 15, I'm 14, and they're like, you need to show proof that you're actually 14 because I think you're younger. Which it's Italian genes, but here I'll get my ID because people don't believe me. Where's my ID?
So does girl Sandy just fine though. Her hair was natural blonde.
I'm gonna try
soft,
1 second.
Like her china blue eyes.
I'm gonna try covering up my thing. 1 second.
But she was a real nice girl. Still, lots of times I wonder what other girls were like.
So I need to like cover up my like.
Bright eyes and had their dresses a decent length and acted as if they'd like to spit on us if given a chance. Some were afraid of us, and remembering Dallas Winston, I didn't blame them. But most of them.
Yeah, that's my school ID right there. And if you don't see that, that's an 8. Focus camera. Yeah, that's an 8 right there. And that's my school ID picture. I look, ugh, I hate it. Anyways, but that's proof I'm literally in the 8th grade. And I'm 14. Thank you.
Thinking about it while I was doing my homework that night. I had to read Great Expectations for English, and that kid Pip, he reminded me of us. The way he felt marked lousy because he wasn't a gentleman.
Aww.
And the way that girl kept looking.
I like to say I have a Johnny Cade inspired outfit. I usually sometimes wear it, but I have a jean jacket because of him. I relate to Johnny so much. Johnny was like my soul character.
They are right. You are a hood. And that didn't make me feel so hot. These were a lot of socias in that.
You're always hot, Pony.
A classes because I'm supposed to be.
I'm getting called Pony Boy now at school. First it was Blonde Pony Boy. Now it's like Pony Boy before he got his hair dyed. So that's nice.
Should get worse if you want the truth. Two-Bit, he doesn't really want or need half the things he swipes from stores. He just thinks it's fun.
1 minus 6 is 5. Like what?
I can understand why Soda Pop and Steve get into drag races and fights so much, though. Both of them have too much energy, too much feeling with no way to blow it off.
What part of your fursuit are you on? Still the phone base stage. I haven't been able to like really work on Katza because of school and because of lack of like exhaustion. I don't know. I like had such a motive to like start doing it, and now I can barely because I really want to try hard on Katza, and so I still can't get past the muzzle. I have been carving and like smoothing out and stuff like that as hard as I can because I'm like that. I get really hyper focused on one part and then it gets so exhausting that it just exhausts my entire brain and then I just can't do it.
Anywhere and never did anything anymore except work out at gyms and go skiing with some old friends of his sometimes. I rubbed my cheek where it had turned purple. I had looked in the mirror and it did make me look tough, but Derry had maybe put a band-aid on the cut. I remember how awful Johnny looked when he got.
I would like to say my most embarrassing thing is the fact that after watching The Outsiders, I made my own Outsider OC. His name is Cody. Why do they call me Pony Boy or whatever?
Yelled sleepily for me to turn off the light and get to bed. When I finished the chapter I was on, I did.
Number 1, look at my hair slicked back, right? Right?
Faces of the socias as they surrounded me. That blue madras shirt the blonde was wearing. And I could still hear a thick voice. Need a haircut, greaser? I shivered. You cold, Pony Boy? A little, I lied.
And then look at his hair.
He mumbled something drowsily. Listen, kiddo, when Derry hollers at you, he don't mean nothing. He's just got more worries than somebody his age ought to.
Because he's old.
Don't take him serious. You dig, Pony? Don't let him bug you. He's really proud of you because you're so brainy. It's just because you're the baby. I mean, he loves you a lot. Savvy? Sure, I said, trying for Soda's sake to keep the sarcasm out of my voice. Soda? Yeah? How come you dropped out? I never have gotten over that.
Brenda, you got, Brenda, you kind of, have some issues. I think you need to sort that out with a therapist. I know a great one. Her name is Cheryl.
I'll tell you something. Don't Don't tell Derry, though. Okay? Think I'm gonna marry Sandy.
It's actually really funny because my therapist said I should continue being a furry because it's making me happy and I should do what makes me happy. We love a supportive therapist.
Wait till I get out, though, so you can keep Derry off my back. Don't be like that, kid. I told you, you don't mean half of what he says.
Does he though?
You in love with Sandy? What's it like?
Sandy ditched him.
It's real nice.
You know what's actually really funny? I read a theory on what happened, that Sandy got pregnant and then just ditched Soda. I really hope that's how it went.
Then I sighed. I don't quite get what he meant about Derry. Derry thought I was just another mouth to feed and somebody to holler at. Derry loved me. I thought of those hard, pale eyes. Soda was wrong for once, I thought. Derry doesn't love anyone or anything, except maybe Soda. I didn't hardly think of him as being human.
Emo.
I lied to myself. I don't care about him either. Soda's enough, and I'd have him till I got out of school. I don't care about Derry.
Imagine being emo, Pony Boy. He really said, I'm in love with an emo girl.
All the time, but I never believed me. Dally was waiting for Johnny and me under the street light at the corner of Pickett and Sutton. And since we got there early, we had time to go over to the drugstore and the shopping center and goof around. We bought Cokes and blew the straws at the waitress and walked around eyeing things that were lying out in the open until the manager got wise to us and suggested we leave. He was too late, though. Dally walked out with 2 packages of Cools under his jacket. Then we went across the street and down Sutton on the way to the Dingo. There are a lot of drive-ins in town. Ocean gave the way out.
I've actually been to Ohio. I didn't realize it, but I've been to Ohio.
The Dingo is a pretty rough hangout. There's always a fight going on there. Once a girl got shot. We walked around.
I don't know how, but I have been to Ohio, and I didn't even realize it was in Ohio. I thought I was in Kentucky the entire time, and then my parents were like, so that was Ohio. I was like, oh, different. I do really want to, like, their house was so beautiful because it was one of my dad's friends, and he owns this huge ranch, and they have like this, like a bunch of things, right? And all the animals there, you have like such fun things, right, Buddha? You loved it there. Yeah, boo. But like, it was so fun, and they had this little island thing that you could go fishing in. Like, they had this huge ass lake in their backyard, and they had like this little like thing you could go on, and oh my god, I loved being out there. It was so much theory and stuff I could do out there. I just wish I owned a plot like that, because I could see all these theorians at like cool outside places, and all I have is just a green belt outside.
He went around trying to break laws. He went to the rows of seats in front of the concession stand to sit down.
Yeah, because Dolly is a bad boy.
Who were sitting down front.
Rrr.
Dolly eyed them coolly, then walked
Ew.
down the aisle and sat right behind them. I had a sick feeling that Dolly was up to his usual tricks, and I was right. He started talking, loud enough for the 2 girls to hear. He started out bad and got worse. Dallas could talk awful dirty.
Me too.
And I guess he wanted to then. I felt my ears get hot. 2-Bit or Steve or even Soda would have gone right along with him just to see if they could embarrass the girls, but that kind of kicks just doesn't appeal to me. I sat there, struck dumb, and Johnny left hastily to get a Coke.
Pony Boy is 100% a virgin, and no one can tell me wrong.
I might even have helped old Dallas, but those 2 girls weren't our kind. They were tough-looking girls, dressed sharp and really good-looking. They looked about 16 or 17. One had short, dark hair, and the other had long, red hair. The redhead was getting mad or scared. She sat up straight and she was chewing hard on her gum. The other one pretended not to hear Dally. Dally was getting impatient. He put his feet up on the back of the redhead's chair, winked at me, and beat his own record for saying something
Skill
different.
issue.
She turned around and gave him a cool stare.
Oop.
Take your feet off my chair and shut your trap. Boy, she was good looking. I'd seen her before.
Pony Boy. She's like 18, Pony.
She was stuck up.
Way out of your league.
Dally merely looked at her and kept his feet.
But I'm not.
Who's gonna make me? The other one turned around and watched us. That's the greaser that jockeys for the Slash J sometimes, she said, as if we couldn't hear her. I heard the same tone a million times. Greaser, greaser, greaser. Oh yeah, I had heard that tone before too many times. What are they doing at a drive-in without a car, I thought, and Dallas said, I know you 2. I've seen you around rodeos. It's a shame you can't ride bull half as good as you can talk it, the redhead said
I
coolly.
bet he could. Stop doubting him,
And I did
Cherry.
mock
God,
Dally a
I
little.
hate her so much.
You two barrel
She
race,
should have
huh?
broken her
You
leg or
barely use a
something. I
functional
hate
leg, he said
Cherry.
in a biting voice. We're all called cops. Oh
I
my,
personally don't like
Dally
redheads.
looked bored.
Just
She
for
thought
that.
I was
Just for,
scared, didn't
but
she?
only like Cherry. I
You
have,
wanna see my record
you know
store?
what? It's actually funny because my cousin's a redhead.
Softly.
We make fun of her
This what
for it.
I've been in for. Please leave us alone, she said. Why don't you be nice and leave us alone?
Who's
Dally
she?
grinned
Wait,
roguishly.
who is she?
I'm never nice. Want a Coke? She was mad by then. I wouldn't drink it if I was starving in the desert. Get lost, hood.
I'm making
Dally
fan art.
merely shrugged and strolled off. The girl looked at me. I was half scared of her. I'm half scared of all nice girls, especially Lucius.
It's
Are you
okay.
getting started on
Pony
this?
wouldn't be scared of me. I have a really mean personality when it comes to
No.
people I like.
Suddenly she smiled. Gosh, she was pretty.
Pony, she's
What's
18.
your name? I wish she hadn't asked me that. I hate to tell people my name for the first time. Ponyboy Curtis. Then I waited for the "you're kidding" or "that's your real name" or one of the other remarks I usually get. Ponyboy's my real name, and personally I like it. The redhead just
Imagine.
smiled. That's an original and lovely name. All my dad
Yo.
was an original person, I said. I've got a brother named Soda Pop, and it says so on his birth certificate. My name's Sherry, but I'm called Cherry because of my hair. Cherry Valance. I know,
No
I
one
said.
cares
Yes,
about
Cherry.
you,
We go to
Cherry.
the same
God.
school.
You're so annoying.
You don't look old enough to be going to high school, the dark-haired girl said. I'm not. I got put up a year in grade school. Cherry was looking at me. What's a nice, smart kid like you run around with kids like that for?
I went
I
like,
felt myself stiffen. I'm a grease. Same as Dally. He's my buddy. Sorry, Ponyboy, she said softly. Then she said briskly, your brother Soda Pop, does he work at a gasoline station? A DX, I think? Yeah. Man, your brother is one doll. I might have guessed you were brothers. You look alike. I grinned with pride. I don't think I look one bit like Soda, but it's not every day I hear socias telling me they think my brother is a doll. Didn't he used to ride in rodeos? Saddle bronc? Yeah. Dad made him quit after he tore a ligament, though. We still hang
skill
around
issue.
rodeos a lot. I've seen you two barrel race. You're good. Thanks, Cherry said. And the other girl, who was named Martha, said, how come we
You
never
drew
see your brother
Katza?
at school?
Ooh, I won't
He's kind
tag
of
me.
old
I
now,
have
that's what
never
Cherry
had fan
said.
art drawn of Katza.
I winced inside. I've told you I can't stand it. The soda dropped out. He's a dropout, I said roughly. Dropout made me think of some poor, dumb-looking hoodlum wandering the streets breaking out streetlights. It didn't fit my happy-go-lucky brother at all. It fitted Dally perfectly, but she could hardly say it about
Perfect.
Soda. Johnny came back then and sat down beside me. He looked around for Dally, then managed to shy hi to the girls and tried to watch the movie. He was nervous, though. Johnny was always nervous around strangers. Cherry looked at him, sized him up as she had me, then she smiled
And this
softly
is
and
why
reached
I
beside
can
me and
Johnny
hugged me.
Cade.
Dally came striding back with an armful of Cokes. He handed one to each of the girls and sat down beside Cherry. This might cool you off. She gave him an incredulous look, and then she threw her Coke in his face.
What a bitch.
That might cool you off, greaser. After
I
washing
would
out, let me
want that
tell you,
man
ladies, I
to
might
be
cool
near
you off
me.
too.
If you know, if I got a free Coke from someone, even if they're being a jerk,
Smiled
that's
contemptuously.
100% something
If I had been Cherry,
I
I
would
would have
love.
beat it out of
I'm
her.
not
I
wasting a good
admitted with a
Coke.
smile.
That's free.
Fiery, huh? Well, that's the way I like 'em. He started to put his arm around her, but Johnny reached over and stopped him. Leave her alone, Dally. Huh? Dally was taken off guard. He stared at Johnny in disbelief. Johnny couldn't say boo to a goose. Johnny gulped and got a little pale, and he said, you heard me. Leave her alone. Dallas
Leave her
smiled
alone,
for a
gal.
second. If it had been me, or Two-Bit, or Soda, or Steve, or anyone but Johnny, Dally would have flattened him without a moment's hesitation. You just didn't tell Dally Winston what to do.
I
One
could
time at a
surely tell
dime
him what to
store,
do.
a guy told him to move over at the candy counter. Dally turned around and belted him so hard it knocked a tooth loose. A complete stranger, too. But Johnny was the gang's pet, and Dally just couldn't hit him. He was Dally's pet, too. Dally got up and stalked off, his fists jammed in his pockets and a frown on his face. He didn't come back. Cherry sighed in relief. Thanks, he had me scared to death. Johnny managed an admiring grin. You sure didn't show it. Nobody talks to Dally like that. She smiled. From what I saw you do. Johnny's ears got red. I was still staring at him. It had taken more than nerve for him to say what he'd said to
Not like
Dally.
this.
Johnny worshipped the
No.
ground Dallas walked on, and I had never heard Johnny talk back to anyone Marcia grinned at us. She was a little smaller than Cherry. She was cute, but that Cherry Valance was a real looker. Y'all sit up here with us. You can protect us. Johnny and I
Perfect
looked at each other.
watermark.
He grinned suddenly, raising his eyebrows so that they disappeared under his bangs. Would we have
Someone was saying I should start like
boys, his eyes
watermarking my thing.
We had picked up 2 girls and
Art trade
at that.
one.
Not any
I'm gonna work
greasy
on.
broads
No,
for
it's not
us,
art
but
trade.
real
I gotta work on
socials.
my art trade.
Soda would flip when I told him. Okay, I said nonchalantly, might as well. I sat between them and Johnny sat next to Cherry. How old are y'all? Marcia asked. 14, I said. 16, said Johnny. That's funny, Marcia said. I thought you were both 16. Cherry finished for her. I was grateful.
Cherry's such
Johnny
a
looked
bitch.
14 and he knew it.
I'm writing.
Johnny grinned. How come y'all ain't scared of us like you were Dally? Cherry sighed.
I'm listening to a book.
First of all, you didn't join in Dallas's
I use dip pen.
When we asked you to sit up here with us, you didn't act like it was an invitation to make out for the night. Besides that, I've heard about Dallas Winston. He looked as hard as nails and twice as tough. You two don't look mean. Sure, I said tiredly. We're young and innocent. No, Cherry said slowly, looking at me carefully. Not innocent. You see too
What do
much.
you mean by that?
Just not dirty. Dally's okay, Johnny said defensively, and I nodded. You take up for your buddies no matter what they do. When you're a gang,
No, I'm gonna be honest with you.
you don't stick up.
If Natalie got in prison,
Like brothers.
I wouldn't show up to the court date
It's a pack.
because I'd be planning on how to get her out.
Pack like the socials in their social clubs and the street gangs in New York or the wolves in the timber. He's tough, but he's a cool old guy. He'd leave you alone if he knew you, I said, and that was true. When Steve's cousin from Kansas came down, Dally was decent to her and watched his swearing. We all did around nice girls who were the cousinly type. I don't know how to explain it. We try to be nice to the girls we see once in a while, like cousins or the girls in class. But we still watch a nice girl go by on a street corner and say all kinds of lousy stuff about her. Don't ask me why. I don't know why. Well, Marcia said with finality, I'm glad he doesn't know us. Kind of admire him, Cherry said softly, so only I heard. And then we settled down to watch the movie. Oh, yeah, we found out why they were without a car.
Because their boyfriends left them.
Walked down on them when they found out the boys had brought some booze along.
I call that Escalation.
I don't care if they did, Cherry sounded annoyed. It's not my idea of a good time to sit in a drive-in and watch people get drunk. You could tell by the way she said it that her idea of a good time was probably high class and probably expensive. They decided to stay and see the movie anyway. It was one of those beach party movies with no plot and no acting, but a lot of girls in bikinis and some swinging songs, so it was all right. We were all four sitting there in silence when suddenly a strong hand came down on Johnny's shoulder, another on mine, and a deep voice said, "Okay, greasers, you've had it."
Greaser.
I almost jumped out of my skin. It was like having someone leap out from behind a door and yell boo at you. I looked fearfully over my shoulder, and there was Two-Bit, grinning like a chessy cat. Glory, Two-Bit, scare us to death. He was good at voice imitations, and it sounded for all the world like a snarling soch. Then I looked at Johnny. His eyes were shut. He was white as a ghost. His breath was coming in smothered gasps. Two-Bit knew better than to scare Johnny like that. I guess he'd forgotten. He's kind of scatterbrained. Johnny opened his eyes and said weakly, "Hey, Two-Bit." Two-Bit messed up his hair. "Sorry, kid," he said. "I forgot." He climbed over the chair and plopped down beside Marcia. "Who's this, your great aunts?" "And great-grandmother's twice removed," Cherry said smoothly. Couldn't tell if Two-Bit was drunk or not. It's kind of hard to tell with him. He acts boozed up sometimes even when he's sober. He cocked one eyebrow up and the other down.
When you're painting your Dynamax, that's cool.
Bothers him or when he feels like saying something smart. Shoot, you're 96 if you're a day.
My favorite color is lavender and sage green.
Two-Bit stared at her admiringly. Brother, you're a sharp one. Where'd you two ever get to be picked up?
Two colors I can actually see.
Like Pony and Johnny. We really picked them up, Marcia said. We're really Arabian slave traders. We're thinking about Shanghaiing them. They're worth 10 camels apiece at least. 5, Two-Bit disagreed. They don't talk Arabian, I don't think. Say something in Arabian, Johnny Cake. Oh, cut it out, Johnny broke in.
I'm not gonna lie. The only time I can really
Against wisecracking greasers like you, probably.
The only like
Two-Bit grinned, because Johnny didn't usually get sassy like that. We thought we were doing good if we didn't talk at all. Incidentally, we don't mind being called greaser by another greaser. It's kind of playful then.
What was I saying?
And where is old Dally anyways? He went
You know,
hunting
as a
for action.
colorblind, there's
And we
very
were gonna pay him
limitations
for a
to what you
fight.
can actually
I hope he don't
see.
get jailed again. He just got out. Well, he'll probably find the fight Two-Bit stated cheerfully. That's why I came over.
So there's not really a lot of things you can see when like you're colorblind. So I usually stick to like colors I know I can actually see.
Spotted Dallas doing it. Well, does Dally have a blade? Not that I know of, I said. I think he's got a piece of pipe, but he busted his blade this morning.
We don't talk about Dally being in
He'll
jail.
fight fair if Dally don't pull a blade on him. And Dally shouldn't have any trouble.
Where do I get my fur? Amazon.
You don't believe in playing rough or anything, do you? Well, a fair fight isn't rough, Two-Bit said. Blades are rough. So are chains and heaters and pool sticks and rumbles. The skin fighting isn't rough. It blows off steam better than anything. There's nothing wrong with throwing a few punches. Socias are rough. They gang up on one or two, or they rumble each other with their social clubs. Us greasers usually stick together, but when we do fight among ourselves, it's a fair fight between two. And Dolly deserves whatever he gets, because slash tires ain't no joke when you gotta work to pay for them. He got spotted, too, and that was his fault. Our one rule besides stick together is don't get caught. You might get beat up, you
Obviously.
might not. Either way, there's not going to be any blood feud between our outfit and Shepard's. If we needed him tomorrow, they'd show. Tim beats Dally's head, and then tomorrow asks us for help in a rumble, we'll show. Dally was getting kicks. He got caught. He pays up. No sweat. Yeah, boy, Cherry said sarcastically. Real simple. Sure, Marcia said, unconcerned. If he gets killed or something, you just bury him. No sweat. You did okay, baby. Two-Bit grinned a little.
Ew.
Anyone want a weed? I looked at Two-Bit admiringly. He sure put things into words good. Maybe he was still a junior at 18 and a half. Maybe his sideburns were too long. Maybe he did get boozed up too much, but he sure
Because he's drunk all the time.
Cherry and Marcia shook
God, he's a drinking problem. Somebody needs to take the beer from him.
Johnny's color was back and his breathing was regular, but his hand was shaking ever so slightly. The cigarette would steady it. Hey, Ponyboy,
Yeah,
come with me to get some popcorn?
Just take a cigarette. That's gonna steady it.
Sure. Y'all want some?
Pony, you were putting in bad behavior.
Marcia. She was finishing the Coke Dally had given her. I realized then that Marcia and Cherry weren't alike. Cherry had said she wouldn't drink Dally's Coke if she was starving, and she meant it. It was the principle of the thing. But Marcia saw no reason to throw away a perfectly good free Coke.
Me neither. That's a free Coke.
He flipped me a 50-cent piece. Get Johnny some too. I'm buying. He added as Johnny started to reach into his jeans pocket.
Because Johnny's poor.
Stand, and as usual, there was a line a mile long, so we had to wait.
Johnny's parents don't like him, and that's why I can Johnny.
Kid Grease and associate cheerleader together too often. Cherry didn't seem to notice. Your friend, the one with the sideburns, he's okay?
No.
He ain't dangerous like Dallas, if that's what you mean. He's okay. She smiled, and her eyes showed that her mind was on something else. Johnny, he's been hurt bad sometime, hasn't he? It was more of a statement than a question. Hurt and scared. It was the socias, I said nervously, because there were plenty of socias milling around, and some of them were giving me funny looks, as if I shouldn't be with Cherry or something. And I don't like to talk about it either.
You shouldn't. You should be with me instead.
But I started in talking a little faster than I usually do because I don't like to think about it either. It was almost 4 months ago. I walked down to the DX station to get a bottle of pop and to see Steven's soda because they'll always buy me a couple of bottles and let me help work on the cars. I don't like to go on weekends because then there's usually a bunch of girls down there flirting with soda. All kinds of girls, socias too. I don't care too much for girls yet. Soda says I'll grow out of it. He did. It was a warmish spring day with the sun shining bright, but it was getting chilly and dark by the time we started from home. We were walking because we had left Steve's car at the station. At the corner of our block there's a wide open field where we play football and hang out. And it's often a site for rumbles or fist fights. We were passing, kicking rocks down the street and finishing our last bottle of Pepsi, when Steve noticed something lying on the ground. He picked it up.
What?
It was Johnny's blue jeans jacket, the only jacket he had. Looks like Johnny forgot his jacket, Steve said, slinging it over his shoulder to take it by Johnny's house. Suddenly he stopped and examined it more carefully. There was a stain the color of rust across the collar. He looked at the ground. There were some more stains on the grass. He looked up and across the field with a stricken expression on his face. I think we all heard the low moan and saw the dark motion
Whoa there.
on the other side of the lot at the same time.
This is the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. We cannot be talking about topics like this.
Down on the ground. Soda turned him over gently, and I nearly got sick. Someone had beaten him badly.
Do you think?
We were used to seeing Johnny banged up. His father clobbered him around a lot. Although it made us madder than heck, we couldn't do anything about it. But
there was no CPS?
Like this.
No, that makes sense. It was the 60s. What are they going to do?
And swollen. And there was a wide gash from his temple to his cheekbone. He'd carry that scar all his life. His white t-shirt was splattered with
Scars
blood.
make people cool.
I just stood there, trembling.
Actually, no. I have like tons of them on my
I thought
body.
he might be dead. Surely nobody could be beaten like that and live. Steve closed his eyes for a second and muffled a groan as he dropped on his knees beside Soda.
Whoa
Somehow
there.
the gang sensed what had happened. Two-Bit was suddenly there beside me, and for once his comical grin was gone, and his dancing gray eyes were stormy.
Just gonna.
Derry
Okay.
had seen us from our porch and ran
Yep. We're
toward
just
us,
gonna
suddenly
move on from
skipping
whatever
and
that
calling.
was.
Dally was there too, swearing under his breath and turning away with a sick expression on
Cause
his face.
Dally's in love with
I
Johnny.
wondered about it vaguely. Dally had seen people killed on the streets of New York's west side. Why did he look sick now?
Because he loves Johnny. God.
Johnny?
You're so slow,
Someone
pony.
lifted him up and held him against his shoulder. He gave the limp body a slight shake. Hey, Johnny Cake. Johnny's eyes didn't open, but there came a soft question. Soda? Yeah, it's me, Soda Pop said. Don't talk, you're gonna be okay.
Talks
There was a
anyways.
whole bunch of them, Johnny went on, swallowing, ignoring Soda's command. A blue Mustang full. I got so scared. He
Oop.
tried to swear, but suddenly started crying, fighting to control himself, then sobbing all the more because he couldn't.
Just like
Johnny
me.
take a whipping with a 2x4 from his old man and never let out a whimper. That made it worse to see him break now. Soda just held him and pushed Johnny's hair back out of his eyes. It's okay, Johnny Cake. They're gone now. It's okay. Finally, between sobs, Johnny managed to gasp out his story. He had been hunting our football to practice a few kicks when a blue Mustang had pulled up beside the lot. There were 4 Socias in it. They had caught him, and one of them had a lot of rings on his hand. That's what had cut Johnny up so badly. It wasn't just that they had beaten him half to death. He could take that. They had scared him. They had threatened him with everything under the sun. Johnny was high-strung anyway, a nervous wreck from getting belted every time he turned around, or from hearing his parents fight all the time. Living
Me
in those
too.
conditions might have turned someone else rebellious and bitter. It was killing Johnny. He'd never been a coward. He was a good man in a rumble. He stuck up for the gang and kept his mouth shut good around cops. But after the night of the beating, Johnny was jumpier than ever. I didn't think he'd ever get over it. Johnny never walked by himself after that. And Johnny, who was the
He's
most
like a dog.
law-abiding of us, now carried in his
Like
back
me.
pocket a 6-inch switchblade. He'd
Just
used
like
it
me.
too.
I actually do
He never
carry a
got
switchblade
jumped with it.
around.
They had scared him that much. He would kill the next person who jumped him.
Well, there.
Nobody was ever
And
going
that's
to
not an
jump that
understatement.
man.
Spoiler,
Johnny was dead.
someone dies.
I had nearly forgotten that Cherry was listening to me, but when I came back to reality and looked at her, I was startled to find her as white as a sheet. All Socias aren't like that, she said. You have to believe me, Pony Boy, not all of us are like that. Sure, I said. That's like saying all you greasers are like Dallas Winston. I'll bet he's jumped a few people.
Shh, we don't talk about
I
that.
digested that. It was true. Dally had jumped people. He told us stories
We
about
don't talk about
beatings
that.
in New York that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. But not all of us were that bad. And Cherry no longer looked sick, only sad. I'll bet you think the Socias have it made.
Oh my god, Cherry, no one cares.
Socias. I'll tell you something, Pony Boy, and it may come as a surprise. You have troubles you've never even heard of. You want to know something? She looked me straight in the eye.
Oh my god,
I
shut
usually
up,
not
Cherry.
follow.
God,
I
you're so.
believe
I
you,
hate
said.
her.
You better get back out there with the popcorn or Two-Bit will
She's
think
with
I
my
ran off with
man.
your money.
She doesn't deserve
We went
him.
back and watched the movie through again.
Not to mention,
Marcia
she's
and
like
Two-Bit
literally
hit it off
18 and
fine.
he's
Both
14.
had
I know
the
that's a
same stack
4-year
of
difference
rings
and
over
that's
the funeral.
illegal,
But
but
Cherry
like,
and Johnny and I just sat there looking at the movie and not talking. I quit worrying about everything and thought about how nice it was to sit with a girl without having to listen to her swear or to beat her off with a club. I knew Johnny liked it
what?
too. He didn't talk to girls much. Once, while Dallas was in reform school, Sylvia had started hanging on to Johnny and sweet-talking him, and Steve got hold of her and told her if she tried any of her tricks with Johnny, he'd personally beat the tar out of her.
Me
Then he
too.
gave Johnny a lecture on girls and how a sneaking little broad like Sylvia would get him into a lot of trouble. As a result, Johnny never spoke to girls much. Whether that was because he was scared of Steve or because he was shy, I couldn't tell. I got the same lecture from Two-Bit after we'd picked up a couple of girls downtown one day. I thought it was funny because girls are one subject even Derry thinks I use my head about. And it really had been funny because Two-Bit was half crocked when he gave me the lecture. And he told me some stories that about made me want to crawl under the floor or something. He had been talking about girls like Sylvia and the girls he and Dally and the rest picked up at drive-ins and downtown. He never said anything about Sochi girls. So I figured it was all right to be sitting there with them. Even if they did have their own troubles, I really couldn't see what Sochias would have to sweat about. Good grades, good cars, good girls, mattress and Mustangs and Corvairs. Man, I thought, If I had worries like that, I'd consider myself lucky. I know better now. After the movie was over, it suddenly came
Beautiful.
to us that Cherry and Marcia didn't have a way to get home. Two-Bit gallantly offered to walk them home. The west side of town was
Rats
only
getting
about 20
married is
miles
such a
away.
moving thing to
But they
draw,
wouldn't call their
honestly.
parents and have them come and get them. Two-Bit finally talked them into letting us drive them home in his car. I think they were still half scared of us. They were getting over it, though.
Why? If I saw a hot steaming man like Ponyboy offering to ride me, I would jump in that car.
Like us. They liked the Beatles and thought Elvis Presley was out.
The Beatles? No. No. The Beatles, they weren't even hot looking.
Greasy girls would have acted a lot tougher, but there was a basic sameness. I thought maybe it was money that separated us. No, Cherry said.
My personal opinion on the floor is really hot.
Money. Part of it is, but not all. You greasers have a different set of values. You're more emotional. We're sophisticated, cool to the point of not feeling anything. Nothing is real with us. You know, sometimes I'll catch myself talking to a girlfriend and realize I don't mean half of what I'm saying. I don't really think a beer blast on the river bottom is super cool, but I'll rave about one to a girlfriend just to be saying something. She smiled at me. I never told anyone that. I think you're the first person I've ever really gotten through to. She was coming through to me all right, probably because I was a greaser and younger. She didn't have to keep up her guard with me.
Yes.
A rat race is the perfect name for it, she said. We're always going and going and going and never asking where. Did you ever hear of having more than you had, so that you couldn't want anything else and then started to look for something else to want? It seems like we're always searching for something to satisfy us and never finding it. Maybe if we could lose our cool, we could.
For Valentine's Day thing.
That was the truth. Socials were always behind a wall of aloofness, careful not to let their real selves show through. I had seen a social club rumble once. The socials even fought coldly and practically and impersonally. That's why we're separated, I said. It's not money, it's feeling. You don't
live chat is chaos.
Feel too violently. And she was trying to hide a smile. That's probably why we take turns getting our names in the paper.
I know, right?
Two-Bit and Marcia weren't even listening.
I'm doing that for the ship art. I was doing like a date night thing.
No sense to anyone but themselves.
Yeah, no, so you're here.
I have quite a rep for being quiet, almost as quiet as Johnny. Two-Bit always said he wondered why Johnny and I were such good buddies. You must make such interesting conversation, he'd say, cocking one eyebrow. You keeping your mouth shut and Johnny not saying anything. But Johnny and I understood each other without saying anything. Nobody but Soda could really get me talking, till I met Cherry Valance. I don't know why I could talk to her. Maybe for the same reason she could talk to
Because
me.
she's 18.
First thing I knew, I was telling her about Mickey Mouse, Soda's horse. I'd never told anyone about Soda's horse.
Imagine naming a horse after the mouse.
Soda had this buckskin horse, only it wasn't his. It belonged to a guy who kept it at the stables where Soda used to work. Mickey Mouse was Soda's horse, though. First day Soda saw him, he said, "There's my horse," and I never doubted it. I was about 10 then. Soda Pop is horse crazy, I mean it. He's always hanging around stables and rodeos, hopping on a horse every time he gets a chance. When I was 10, I thought that Mickey Mouse and Soda looked alike and were alike. Mickey Mouse was a dark gold buckskin, sassy and ornery. Not much more than a colt. He'd come when Soda called him. He wouldn't come for anyone else. That horse loved Soda. He'd stand there and chew on Soda's sleeve or collar. Gosh, but Soda Pop was crazy about that horse. He went down to see him every day. Mickey Mouse was a mean horse. He kicked other horses and was always getting into trouble.
That sounds like my spirit animal.
Soda tell him, rubbing his neck. How come you're so mean, Mickey Mouse? Mickey Mouse would just chew on his sleeve and sometimes nip him, but not hard. He may have belonged to another guy, but he was Soda's horse. Does Soda still have him? Cherry asked.
No.
He got sold, I said. They came and got him one day and took him off. He was a real valuable horse, pure quarter. She didn't say anything else, and I was glad. I couldn't tell her that Soda had bawled all night long after they came and got Mickey Mouse. I had cried too, if you want to know the truth, because Soda never really wanted anything except a horse, and he'd lost his. Soda had been 12 then, going on 13. He never let on to Mom and Dad how he felt, though, because we never had enough money, and usually we had a hard time making ends meet. When you're 13 in our neighborhood, you know the score. I kept saving my money for a year, thinking that someday I could buy Mickey Mouse back for soda. You're not so smart at 10. You read a lot, don't you, Pony Boy? Cherry asked. I was startled. Yeah, why? She kind of shrugged. I could just tell. I'll bet you watch sunsets, too. She was quiet for a minute after I nodded. I used to watch them, too, before I got so busy. I pictured that, or tried to. Maybe Cherry stood still and watched the sunset while she was supposed to be taking the garbage out. Stood there and watched and forgot.
I don't think Cherry did take the garbage out. She sounds like the girl that would complain if she was
I
asked
shook
to.
my head. It seemed funny to me that the sunset she saw from her patio and the one I saw from the back steps was the same
I
one.
personally love taking the
Maybe
trash
the two
out.
different worlds we lived in weren't so different. We saw the same sunset. Marcia suddenly gasped. Cherry, look what's coming. We all looked and saw a blue Mustang coming down the street. Johnny made a small noise in his throat, and when I looked at him, he was blue.
That's the sound.
Marcia was shifting nervously. What are we gonna do? Cherry bit a fingernail. Stand here, she said. There isn't much else we can do. Who is it? Two-Bit asked. The FBI? No, Cherry said bleakly. It's Randy and Bob.
Oh,
And
God.
Two-Bit added grimly, a few other of the socially elite checkered shirt set. Your boyfriends? Johnny's voice was steady, but standing as close to him as I could see he was trembling. I wondered why. Johnny was a nervous wreck, but he never was that jumpy. Cherry started walking down the street. Maybe they won't see us. Act normal. Who's acting? Two-Bit grinned. I'm a natural normal. I wish it was the other way around, I muttered, and Two-Bit said, don't get mouthy, Pony Boy.
Yeah, he's gonna smack you.
Slowly and went right on by. Marcia sighed in relief. That was close. Cherry turned to me. Tell me about your oldest brother. You don't talk much about him. I tried to think of something to say about Derry and shrugged. Wants to talk about. He's big and handsome and likes to play football. I mean, what's he like? I feel like I know Soda from the way you talk about him. Tell me about Derry. And when I was silent, she urged me on. Is he wild and reckless like Soda? Dreamy like you? My face got hot as I bit my lip.
No.
Derry. What was Derry like? I started to say he was a good old guy, but I couldn't. I burst out bitterly. He's not like Soda Pop at all, and he sure ain't like me. He's hard as a rock and about as human. He's got eyes exactly like frozen ice. He thinks I'm a pain in the neck. He likes Soda. Everybody likes Soda, but he can't stand me. Bet he wishes he could stick me in a home somewhere, and he'd do it too if Soda'd let him. Two-Bit and Johnny were staring at me now. No, Two-Bit said dumbfounded. No, Pony Boy, that ain't right. You got it wrong. Gee, Johnny said softly, I thought you and Derry and Soda got along real well. Well, we don't, I snapped, feeling silly. I knew my ears were red by the way they were burning, and I was thankful for the darkness. I felt stupid. Compared to Johnny's home, mine was heaven. At least Derry didn't get drunk and beat me up or run me out of the house. And I had Soda Pop to talk things over with.
Oh, daddy
That made
issues.
me mad. I mean, making a fool of myself in front of everyone. And you can shut your trap, Johnny K, because we all know you ain't wanted at home either, and you can't blame them.
Me too.
Johnny's eyes went round, and he winced as though I belted him. Two-Bit slapped me a good one across the back of the head and hard. Shut your mouth, kid. If you wasn't Soda's kid brother, I'd beat the tar out of you. You know better than to talk to Johnny like that. He put his hand on Johnny's shoulder. He didn't mean it, Johnny. I'm sorry, I said miserably. Johnny was my buddy. I was just mad. It's the truth, Johnny said with a bleak grin.
Oop.
I don't care.
Emo.
You shut up talking like that, Two-Bit said fiercely, messing up Johnny's hair. We couldn't get along without you, so you can just shut up. It ain't fair,
Spoiler alert.
passionately. It ain't fair that we have all the rough breaks. I didn't know exactly what I meant, but I was thinking about Johnny's father being a drunk and his mother a selfish slob, and Two-Bit's mother being a barmaid to support him and his kid sister after their father ran out on him, and Dally, wild, cunning Dally, turned into a hoodlum because he'd die if he didn't. And Steve, his hatred for his father coming out in his soft, bitter voice
Daddy
and the violence
issues.
of his temper. Soda Pop, a dropout so he could get a job and keep me in school. And Derry getting old before his time.
Are you guys quoting me?
Hold on to 2 jobs and never having any fun. All the socials had so much spare time and money that they jumped us.
Yeah, I'm 14.
beer blasts and river bottom parties because they didn't know what else to do. Things were rough all over the east side. It just didn't seem right to me. I know, Two-Bit said with a good-natured grin. Chips are always down when it's our turn, but that's the way things are. Like it or lump it.
You know what?
Sherry and Marcia didn't say anything. I guess they didn't know what to say. We had forgotten they were there. Then the blue Mustang was coming down the street again more slowly.
That bitch-ass car coming.
Sherry said resignedly, they've spotted us. The Mustang came to a halt beside us, and the two boys in the front seat got out. They were Sochas, all right. One had on a white shirt and a Madras ski jacket, and the other a light yellow shirt and a white
Longest time I pronounced it Madra
for the first time
and not Madra.
and all I had was a pair of jeans, and Soda's old navy sweatshirt with the sleeves cut short. I swallowed. Two-Bit started to tuck in his shirt tail, but stopped himself just in time. He just flipped up the collar of his black leather jacket and lit a cigarette. The Sochas didn't even seem to see us. Cherry, Marcia, listen to us. The handsome black-haired Socha with the dark sweater began. Johnny was breathing heavily, and I noticed he was staring at Socha's hand. He was wearing 3 heavy rings. I looked quickly at Johnny, an idea dawning on me. I remember that it was a blue Mustang that had pulled up beside the vacant lot, and that Johnny's face had been cut up by someone wearing a ring. The Socha's voice broke into my thoughts. Just because we got a little drunk last time. Cherry looked mad. A little? You call reeling and passing out in the streets a little? Bob, I told
That sounds
you
like a
I'm
little to
never
me.
going out with you while you're drinking, and I mean it. Too many things could happen while you're drunk. It's me or the booze.
It's me or the PS5.
Haircut turned to Marcia. Baby, you know we don't get drunk very often. When she only gave him a cold stare, he got angry. And even if you are mad at us, that's no reason to go walking the streets with these bums. Two-Bit took a long drag on his cigarette. Johnny slouched and hooked his thumbs in his pockets, and I stiffened. We can look meaner than anything when we want to. Looking tough comes in handy. Two-Bit put his elbow on Johnny's shoulder. Who you calling bums? Listen, greasers, we got 4 more of us in the back seat. Well,
Pity in the back seat.
Two-Bit said to the sky. If you're looking for a fight, Two-Bit cocked an eyebrow, but it only made him look more cool. You mean if I'm looking for a good jumping, you outnumber us, so you'll give it to us? Well, he snatched up an empty bottle, busted off the end, and gave it to me, then reached in his back pocket and flipped out his switchblade. Try it, pal. No, Cherry cried. Stop it. She looked at Bob. We'll ride home with you. Just wait a minute. Why? Two-Bit demanded. We ain't scared of them. Cherry shuddered. I can't stand fights. I can't stand them. I pulled her to one side. I couldn't use this, I said, dropping the pop bottle. I could never cut anyone. I had to tell her that because I'd seen her eyes when Two-Bit flipped out his switch.
Yeah, Pony's just...
I know, she said quietly, but we better go with them. Pony boy, I mean, if I see you in the hall at school or someplace and don't say hi, well, it's not personal or anything, but I know, I said. We couldn't let our parents see us with you all. You're a nice boy and everything. It's okay, I said, wishing I was dead and buried somewhere. Or at least that I had on a decent shirt. We aren't in the same class. Just don't forget that some of us watch the sunset, too. She looked at me quickly. I could fall in love with Dallas Winston, she said.
Me too.
I hope I never see him again, or I will. She left me
Already.
standing there with my mouth
Fallen in love with that man.
and the blue Mustang vroomed off. We walked on home, mostly in silence. I wanted to ask Johnny if those were the same Sochas that beat him up, but I didn't mention it. Johnny never talked about it, and we never said anything. Well, those were 2 good-looking girls if I ever saw any. Two-Bit yawned as we sat down on the curb at the vacant lot. He took a piece of paper out of his pocket and tore it up. What was that? Marcia's number. Probably a phony one, too. I must have been out of my mind to ask for it. I think I'm a little soused. So he had been drinking. Two-Bit was smart. He knew the score. You all going home, he asked. Not right now, I said. I wanted to have another smoke and to watch the stars. I had to be in by 12, but I thought I had plenty of time. I don't know why I handed you that busted bottle, Two-Bit said, getting to his feet. You'd never use it.
You should have just gone home, Pony.
Where are you headed? Gonna go play a little snooker and hunt up a poker game.
He shouldn't have just gone home. I'm just saying, he should have just gone
Johnny and
home.
I stretched out on our backs and looked at the stars.
Just go
I was
home,
free,
please,
but it was a
Pony.
cold
Don't
winter
make
and
this
all I had was
decision.
that
You don't want to
sweatshirt.
go down this path.
I could watch the stars in sub-zero weather.
Don't go
The
down
sun
that
lit
path.
his
Please
cigarette
go
low
home.
in the
Please go
dark, and I
home.
wondered vaguely what it was like inside a burning ember.
Just go
It
home.
was because we're greasers, Johnny said. I know he was talking about Cherry. We could have hurt her reputation. I reckon, I said, wondering if I ought to tell Johnny what she had said about Dallas. Man, that was a tough car. Mustangs are tough. Big time Socias, all right, I said, a nervous bitterness growing inside me. It wasn't fair for the Socias to have everything. We were as good as they were. It wasn't our fault we were greasers. I couldn't just take it or leave it like Two-Bit, or ignore it and love life anyway like Soda Pop, or harden myself beyond caring like Dally, or actually enjoy it like Tim Shepard. I felt the tension growing inside of me. I knew something had to happen or I would explode. I can't take much more. Johnny spoke my own feelings. I'll kill myself or something.
Do it.
Don't, I said, sitting up in alarm. You can't kill yourself, Johnny.
Well, Pony, if you're gonna keep going down this path of staying in that thing, it's gonna happen. God, please, Johnny. Johnny, run. Pony's gonna literally kill you if you don't please.
Plain, ordinary people. Out of the big towns, I said, lying back down. In the country. In the country. I loved the country. I wanted to be out of towns and away from
I'm
excitement.
a country
I
boy.
wanted to lie on my
Country
back under a tree and read a
home.
book, draw a
Take
picture.
me home.
Not worry about being jumped or carrying a blade or ending up married to some scatterbrained broad with no
West
sense.
Virginia.
Country would be like that, I thought dreamily. I would have a yeller cur dog like I used to. And Soda Pop could get Mickey Mouse back and ride in all the rodeos he wanted to. And Derry would lose that cold, hard look and be like he used to be 8 months ago, before Mom and Dad were killed. Since I was dreaming, I brought Mom and Dad back to life. Mom could bake some
Trauma.
cakes, and Dad would drive the pickup out early to feed the cattle. He'd slap Derry on the back and tell him he was getting to be a man, a regular chip off the block, and they would be as close as they used to. Maybe Johnny could come and live with us, and the gang could come out on weekends, and maybe Dallas would see that there was some good in the world after all. And Mom would talk to him and make him grin in spite of himself. He'd got quite a
Please, Pony, go home. Stop staying in the lot. Please, just go home. You don't want to make this decision.
A lot of trouble. My mother was golden and beautiful. Pony boy, Johnny was shaking me. Hey, Pony, wake up. I sat up, shivering. The stars had moved. Glory, what time is it? I don't know. I went
Too
to
late.
sleep too, listening to you rattle on and on. You better get home. I think I'll stay all night out here.
Stop. No.
Johnny's parents
Please.
didn't care if he came home or not. Okay, I yawned.
Please.
Gosh, but it was
go home.
If you get cold or something, come on over to our house. Okay. I ran home, trembling at the thought of facing Derry. The porch light was on. Maybe they were asleep and I could sneak in, I thought. I peeked in the window. So Pop was stretched out on the sofa, sound asleep. But Derry was in the armchair under the lamp.
Go home.
I gulped and opened the door softly. Derry looked up from his paper. He was on his feet in a second. I stood there chewing on my fingernail.
No.
Where the heck have you been?
It's not where the heck is. Where the hell have you been?
I'd seen him in a long time. I shook my head wordlessly. Well, it's 2 in the morning, kiddo. Another hour and I would have had the police out after you. Where were you, Pony boy? His voice was rising. Where in the almighty universe were you? It sounded dumb to me when I stammered. I went to sleep in the lot. You what? He was shouting, and Soda Pop sat up and rubbed his eyes.
Hey, babe.
Pony boy, he said sleepily, where you been? I didn't mean to, I pleaded with Derry. I was talking to Johnny, and we both dropped off. I reckon it never occurred to you that your brothers might be worrying their heads off and afraid to call the police because something like that could get you two thrown in a boys' home so quickly it'd make your head spin. And you were asleep in the lot? Pony boy, what on earth is the matter with you? Can't you use your head? You haven't even got a coat on. I felt hot tears of
I need to. Oh, frick. I forgot to draw the other person.
Said I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to, Derry shouted, and I almost shook. I didn't think. I forgot. That's all I hear. Can't you think of anything? Derry, Soda Pop began, but Derry turned on him. You keep your trap shut. I'm sick and tired of hearing you stick up for him.
Don't you yell at my brother like that.
Nobody should ever holler at my brother. I exploded. You don't yell at him, I shouted. Derry wheeled around and slapped me so hard that it knocked me against the door. Suddenly, it was deathly quiet. We had all frozen.
I gotta download that person's thing. I'll do it later because I don't have the ref sheet.
Nobody. Soda was wide-eyed. Derry looked at the palm of his hand where it had turned red and then looked back at me.
Oh, Gremlin, I need to
His
draw
eyes
their
were
thing.
huge. Pony boy.
Pony boy,
I turned
that's just a
and ran out
joke.
the door and down the street as fast as I could. Derry screamed, "Pony, I didn't mean to."
I didn't mean to.
And pretended I couldn't hear. I was running away. It was plain to me that Derry didn't want me around, and I wouldn't stay if he did. He wasn't ever going to hit me again. Johnny, I
Emo
probably
much.
started when he rolled over and jumped up almost under my feet. "Come on, Johnny, we're running away." Johnny asked no questions. We ran for several blocks until we were out of breath, then we walked. I was crying by then. Finally just sat down on the curb and cried, burying my face in my arms. Johnny sat down beside me, one hand on my shoulder. "Easy, Pony boy," he said softly. "We'll be okay."
No, you won't.
I finally calmed down and wiped my eyes on my bare arm.
You guys aren't gonna be
My
okay.
breath was coming in quivering sobs. "Got a cigarette?" He handed me one and struck a match. "Johnny, I'm scared." "Well, don't be. You're scaring me. What happened? I never saw you bawl like that." "I don't very often. It was Derry."
He hit me. He pushed
"I
me.
don't know what
You guys
happened.
want to see the
I
scene
hollered at
that
him,
happened?
me too. I don't know. Sometimes we get along okay, then all of a sudden he blows up on me, or Elsa's nagging at me all the time. He didn't used to be like that. We used to get along okay before Mom and Dad.
Anyways, you want to see the scene?
Now he just
The
keeps
little
hitting.
scene that is quote on hitting.
I like it better when the old man's hitting me, Johnny sighed.
Oh my god, let me pause this.
So fast it would make your head spin. Come on, Pony, let's go to bed now. Look, I said I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. I forgot. It's all I ever hear from you. Come on, Derry, shut up. I'm sick and tired of sneaking out for you. You hear me? Don't you yell at him.
That was the hit. I didn't mean to. I can't. I'm so funny. What chapter? 1 second. What chapter was that? Into darkness. Grandy didn't mean to. Let's see. Wait. Oh wait, never mind. I don't want to read that scene. That scene made me cry.
The park was about 2 blocks square, with a fountain in the middle.
Nope.
After the movie was over, it suddenly came to us that Chariot. "I think I like it better when the old man's hitting me," Johnny sighed. "At least then I know he knows who I am. I walk in that house and nobody says anything.
That's not even late. Wow.
I walk out and nobody says anything. Stay away all night and nobody notices. At least you got Soda. I ain't got nobody."
Trauma.
"Shoot," I said, startled out of my misery. "You got the whole gang. Dolly didn't slug you tonight because you're the pet. I mean, golly, Johnny, you got the whole gang." "It ain't the same as having your own folks care about you," Johnny said simply. "It just ain't the same." I was beginning to relax and wonder if running away was such a great idea. I was sleepy and freezing to death, and I wanted to be home in bed.
Just please, just go back. Don't walk to the park. Just go back.
I decided I would go home and just not speak to Derry. It was my house as much as Derry's, and if he wanted to pretend I wasn't allowed, that was just fine with me. Couldn't stop me from living in my
You talking
own
about them
house.
bowl cuts?
Let's walk to the park and back. Then maybe I'll be cooled off enough to go home. Okay, Johnny said easily.
No, don't walk to the park.
Things gotta get better, I figured. They couldn't get worse. I was wrong.
You talking about this? This your haircut? You talking about them Will Byers haircut?
Square with a fountain in the middle and a small swimming
That?
pool for the little kids. The pool was empty now in the fall, but the fountain was going merrily. Tall elm trees made the shadow in the dark.
No.
It would have been a good hangout.
That's a turn off.
Our vacant lot. And the shepherd outfit like the alleys down by the tracks. The park was left to lovers and little kids. Nobody was around at 2:30 in the morning, and it was a good place to relax and cool off. I couldn't have gotten much cooler without turning into a popsicle. Johnny snapped up his jeans jacket and flipped up the collar. Ain't you about to freeze to death, Pony? You ain't a woofin', I said, rubbing my bare arms between drags on my cigarette. I started to say something about the film of ice developing on the outer edges of the fountain. When a sudden blast from a car horn made us both jump.
That bitch ass car. He really said, vroom, vroom, vroom.
Swore under his breath, and I muttered, what do they want?
It's a Mickey Mouse clubhouse. Come inside, there's fun inside. It's a Mickey Mouse clubhouse.
But I bet they're looking for us. We picked up their girls.
Material girl.
Oh, glory, I said with a groan. This is all I need to top off a perfect night. I took one last drag on my weed and ground the stub under my heel. Want to run for it? It's too late now, Johnny said. Here they come. 5 socials were coming straight at us, and from the way they were staggering, I figured they were reeling pickled. That scared me. A cool, deadly bluff could sometimes shake them off, but not if they outnumbered you 5-2 and were drunk. Johnny's hand went to his back pocket, and I remembered his switchblade.
1 second.
I wish for that broken bottle. I'd sure show them I could use it if I had to.
Yeah.
Johnny was scared to death. I mean it. He was as white as a ghost, and his eyes were wild looking, like the eyes of an animal in a trap. We backed against the fountain, and the socials surrounded. He smelled so heavily of whiskey and English leather that I almost choked. I wished desperately that Derry and Soda would come along hunting for me. 4 of us could handle him easily. No one was around, and I knew Johnny and I were going to have to fight it out alone. Johnny had a blank, tough look on his face. You'd have had to know him to see the panic in his eye. I stared at the socials coolly. Maybe they could scare us to death, but we'd never let them have the satisfaction of knowing it. It was Randy and Bob and 3...
Go, run, please. No! Don't stay.
Recognized us. I knew Johnny recognized them. He was watching the moonlight glint off the
Ew.
rings with huge eyes. Hey, what do you know? Bob said a little unsteady.
I can't have you know, should I might kill my ex. Not the best idea. His new girlfriend's next. How'd I get here? Run, please, Pony.
These little greasers that picked up our girls. Greasers. You're out of your territory, Johnny.
Run, Johnny, please.
Randy swore at us and they stepped in closer. Bob was eyeing Johnny.
Where's that fucking one edit?
You're the one.
This is what's going through my mind.
Next time you want abroad, pick up your own kind. Dirt. I was getting mad. I was hating them enough to lose my head. You know what a greaser is? Bob asked. White trash with long hair. Draining from my face. I've been cussed out and sworn at. Nothing ever hit me like that did. Johnny Cake made a kind of gasp and his eyes were smoldering. Do you know what a soch is? I said, my voice shaking with rage.
Pony Boy just needed to run. Oh my god. Oh, I can't.
White trash with Mustangs and men.
Please, just
I
run.
can't think of anything bad enough to call them. I spit at them. Bob. Shook his head, smiling slowly. You could use a bath greaser and a good working over. We've got all night to do it. Give the kid a bath, David. I ducked and tried to run for it, but the Soch caught my arm and twisted it behind my back and shoved my face into the fountain. I fought.
Just run, Johnny,
My neck was
please.
strong, and I had to hold my breath. I'm dying, I thought. I wonder what was happening to Johnny. Couldn't hold my breath any longer. I fought again desperately, but only sucked in water. I'm drowning, I thought. I've gone too far.
He just needed to run.
The next thing I knew, I was lying.
Yes, we're witnessing a death.
Coughing water and gasping. I lay there weakly, breathing in air and spitting out water. The wind blasted through my soaked sweatshirt and dripping hair. My teeth chattered unceasingly, and I couldn't stop them. I finally pushed myself up and leaned back against the fountain, the water running down my face. Then I saw Johnny. He was sitting next to me, one elbow on his knee and staring straight ahead. He was a strange greenish white, and his eyes were huger than I'd ever seen them. I killed him, said Slow. I killed that boy. Bob, handsome Soch, lying there in the moonlight, doubled up and still. A dark pool was growing from him, spreading slowly over the blue-white cement. I looked at Johnny's hand. He was clutching his switchblade, and it was dark to the hilt. My stomach gave a violent jump, and my blood turned icy. I managed to say finally, business. I think I'm gonna be sick.
Why didn't you run, Pony? God damn it. If you just ran, this would have happened. And then Johnny wouldn't have been alive. And then Dallas would have died. And it wouldn't have set off this whole shockwave.
So I went to see Bob lying.
Caribou, what do I
This can't
do?
be happening. This can't be happening. This can't.
You're right. I love you, Caribou, so much.
You really killed him, huh, Johnny?
I love my dog.
His voice
Anyways, back to doing art commission.
I had to. They were drowning you, Pony. They might have killed you. They had a blade. They were gonna beat me up. Like, I swallowed, like they did before. Johnny was quiet for a minute. Yeah, he said, like they did before. Johnny told me what had happened. Johnny ran when I stabbed him. They all
Stop.
ran.
No.
What are we gonna do? They put you in the electric chair for killing people. I was shaking.
They should have not. That book traumatized me for life.
I'm scared, Johnny. What are we gonna do? Johnny jumped up and dragged me up by my sweatshirt. He shook me. Calm down, Pony Boy. Get a hold of yourself.
You just killed someone!
As I was screaming, I shook loose. Okay. I said, I'm okay now. Johnny looked around, slapping his pockets nervously. We gotta get out of here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, just stay there with the dead body. That's smart.
I was trembling, and it wasn't all from cold. But Johnny, except for the fact that his hands were twitching, looked as cool as Derry ever had.
He literally just murdered a person.
Maybe a gun and a plan.
Oop.
Money? Maybe a gun? A plan? Where in the world will we get these things?
Derry. Not Derry, Dallas.
Johnny said with finality. Dally will get us out of here. I heaved a sigh. Why hadn't I thought of that? But I never thought of anything.
What?
Dallas Winston could do anything. Where can we find him? I think at Buck Merrill's place. There's a party over there tonight. Dally said something about it this afternoon. Buck Merrill was Dally's rodeo partner. He was the one who got Dally the job as a jockey for the Slash J. Buck raised a few quarter horses and made most of his money on fixed races.
This is where the book went so wrong. If they just made them have a happy life. I know it's not life all the time.
Which was dandy with me. I didn't like Buck Merrill. He was a tall, lanky cowboy with blonde hair and buck teeth. Or he used to be.
Yeah, them cowboys.
Front two knocked out in a fight. He was out of it.
Yeehaw.
He dug Hank Williams. How gross can you get?
Ew.
Buck answered the door when we knocked, and a roar of cheap music came with him.
Oh.
Clinking of glasses, loud, rough laughter, and female giggles, and Hank Williams. It scraped on my nerves like sandpaper. At can of beer in one hand, Buck glared down at us. What do you want? Dally,
You.
Johnny gulped, looking back over his shoulder. We gotta see Dally. He's busy, Buck snapped, and someone in his living room yelled, "Ah!" and then,
Yeehaw!
and the sound of it almost made my nerves snap. Tell him it's Pony and Johnny, I commanded. I knew Buck, and the only way you could get anything from him was to bully him. I guess that's why Dallas could handle him so easily, although Buck was in his mid-20s and Dally was 17. He'll come.
Imagine getting bullied
Buck
by a
glared at me for a
17-year-old when you're
second,
like
then
in your
stumbled
30s.
off.
Imagine.
He was pretty well cropped, which made me apprehensive. If Dally was drunk and in a dangerous mood. He appeared in a few minutes, clad only in a pair of low-cut blue jeans, scratching the hair on his chest. He was sober enough, and that surprised
What
me.
a sight.
Maybe he hadn't been there long. Okay, kids, what do you need me for? As Johnny told him the story, I studied Dally, trying to figure out what there was about this tough-looking hood that a girl like Cherry Valance could love.
I'm sorry.
Slow-headed and shifty-eyed,
No.
Dally was anything but handsome. Yet in his hard face there was
Mance
purity,
is spot on
and
hot.
savage defiance of the world. He could never love Cherry Valance back. It would be a miracle if
He
Dally
would
loved
love me
anything.
back.
The fight for self-preservation had hardened him beyond caring. He didn't bat an eye when Johnny told him what had happened, only grinned and said, "Good for you," when Johnny told how he had knifed the Soch. Finally, Johnny finished. We figured you could get us out if anyone could. I'm sorry we got you away from the party. Ah, shoot, kid. Dally glanced contemptuously over his shoulder. I was in the bedroom.
Oop.
He suddenly stared at me. Glory, but your ears can get red, pony boy. I was remembering what usually went on in the bedrooms at Buck's parties.
Ooh.
Then Dally grinned in amused realization. I wasn't anything like that, kid. I was asleep, or trying to be with all this racket. Hank Williams. He rolled his eyes and added a few adjectives after Hank Williams. Then me and Shepard had a run-in and I cracked some ribs. I needed a place to lay over. He rubbed his side ruefully. Old Tim sure can pack a punch. He won't be able to see out of one eye for a week. He looked us over and sighed. Well, wait a second. I'll see what I can do about this mess. Then he took a good look at me. Pony boy, are you wet? Yes. I stammered through chattering
Snake.
teeth. Glory, hallelujah. He opened the screen door,
Hallelujah.
me in, motioning
Praise
for
to
Johnny follow.
Jesus.
You'll die of pneumonia before the cops ever get you. He half dragged me into an empty bedroom, swearing at me all the way. Get that sweatshirt off. He threw a towel at me. Dry off and wait here. At least Johnny's got his jeans jacket. You ought to
Mother
have anyone
vibes.
wear just a sweatshirt, and a wet one at that. Don't you ever use your head?
No.
He sounded so much like Derry that I stared at him. He didn't notice and left us sitting on the bed. Johnny lay back on it. I wish I had me a weed. My knees were shaking as I finished drying off, sitting there in my jeans. Dally appeared after a minute. He carefully shut the door. Here. He handed us a gun and a roll of bills. The gun's loaded. For Pete's sake, Johnny, don't point the thing at me. Here's $50. That's all I can get out of Merrill tonight. He's blowing his loot from that last race. You might have thought it was Dally who fixed those races for Buck being a jockey and all, but it wasn't. The last guy to suggest it lost 3 teeth. It's the truth. Dally rode the ponies honestly and did his best to win. It was the only thing Dally did honestly. Pony, did Derry and Soda Pop know about this?
Nope.
I shook my head. Dally sighed. Boy, howdy, I ain't itching to be the one to tell Derry and get my head busted. Then don't tell him, I said. I hated to worry Soda Pop and would have liked to let him know that I had gotten this far okay. But I didn't care if Derry worried himself gray-headed. I was too tired to tell myself I was being mean and unreasonable. I convinced myself it wouldn't be fair to make Dally tell him. Derry would beat him to death for giving us the money and the gun and getting us out of town. Here, Dally handed me a shirt about 60 million sizes too big. It's Buck's. You and him ain't exactly the same size, but it's dry. He handed me his worn brown leather jacket with the yellow sheep's wool lining. It'll get cold where you're going, but you can't risk being loaded down with blankets. I started buttoning up the shirt. It about swallowed me. You hop the 315 freight to Windricksville, Dally instructed. There's an old abandoned church on top of Chain Mount.
Please don't go near the church. Don't go near the church. Don't go near the church.
As soon as you get there this morning, before the story gets out.
Don't.
And then don't so much as stick your noses out.
Go near the church. God
I'll
damn
be up
it,
there
Johnny.
as soon as I think it's clear. Man, I thought New York was the only place I could get mixed up in a murder rap. At the word murder, Johnny made a small noise in his throat and shuddered. Dally walked us back to the door, turning off the porch light before we stepped out. Get going, he messed up Johnny's hair. Take care, kid. He said softly. Sure, Dally, thanks. And we ran into the darkness. We crouched in the weeds
Don't
beside
go
the
near
railroad
the,
tracks.
don't go near
listening to
the
whistles
church,
from out.
please.
The train slowed to a screaming halt. Now, whispered Johnny.
Don't go near
We
the
ran and pulled
church.
ourselves into an open boxcar. We pressed against the side, trying to hold our breath.
Don't go
We
near the
listened to the
church.
railroad
Leave the
workers
church
walking up
alone.
and down
Don't go near the
outside.
church, please.
One poked his head inside and we froze. But he didn't see us, and the boxcar rattled on as the train started up. The first stop
Go
would be
near the
Windrix, where
church.
Johnny said,
Leave
laying
the
down
church
the gun gingerly.
alone.
He shook his head. I don't see why he gave me this. I couldn't shoot anybody. Then
But
for the
you-
first time, really, I realized what we were in for. Johnny
Don't go near the
us.
church. Leave the church alone.
Quiet, soft-spoken little Johnny, who wouldn't hurt a living thing on purpose, had taken a human life.
Well, you said he was gonna do it.
Running away, with the police after us for murder and a loaded gun by our side. I wish we'd asked Dally for a pack of cigarettes. I stretched out and used Johnny's legs for a pillow. Curling up, I was thankful for Dally's jacket. It was too big, but it was warm. Not even the rattling of the train could keep me awake. I went to sleep in a hoodlum's jacket, with a gun lying next to my hand.
Hot.
I was hardly awake when Johnny and I leaped off the train into a meadow. Not until I landed in the dew and got a wet shock did I realize what I was doing. Johnny must have woke me up and told me to jump, but I didn't remember it. We lay in the tall weeds and damp grass, breathing heavily. The dawn was coming. It was light in the sky in the east, and a ray of gold touched the hills. The clouds were pink, and meadowlarks were singing. This is the country, I thought, half asleep. My dreams come true, and I'm in the country. Blast it, pony boy, Johnny was rubbing his legs. You must have put my legs to sleep. I can't even stand up. I barely got off that train. I'm sorry, why didn't you wake me up?
You was asleep.
Didn't want to wake you up until I had to. Now, how do we find J Mountain? I asked Johnny. I was still groggy with sleep and wanted to sleep forever right there in the dew and the dawn. When we go ask someone, the story won't be in the paper yet. Make like a farm boy taking a walk or something.
Do I look like a farm boy to you?
I suddenly thought of my long hair combed back and the slouching stride I used from habit. I looked at Johnny. He didn't look like any farm boy to me. He still reminded me of a lost puppy who had been kicked too often. But for the first time I saw him as a stranger might see him. He looked hard and tough because of his black t-shirt and his blue jeans and jacket, because his hair was heavily greased and so long. I saw how his hair curled behind his ears and I thought, we both need a haircut and some decent clothes. I looked down at my worn, faded blue jeans, my too big shirt, and Dally's worn-out jacket. They'll know we're hoods the minute they see us, I thought. I'll have to stay here, Johnny said, rubbing his legs. You go down the road and ask the first person you see where J Mountain is. He winced at the pain in his legs.
Hold on a second. I should probably look at chat. I haven't looked at them in a while.
Comb through your hair and quit slouching down like a thug. So
You should draw the fan art.
Combed my hair carefully. Guess I look okay now, huh, Johnny? He was studying me. You know, you look an awful lot like Soda Pop the way you've got your hair and everything. I mean, except your eyes are green. They ain't green, they're gray, I said, reddening. I look about as much like Soda as you do.
He hate them green people eyes.
Oh, shoot, Johnny said with a grin. You are, too. I climbed over the barbed wire fence without saying anything else. I could hear Johnny laughing at me, but I didn't care. I went strolling down the red dirt road, hoping my natural color would come back before I met anyone. I wonder what Derry and Soda Pop are doing now, I thought, yawning. Soda had the whole bed to himself for once. I bet Derry's sorry he ever hit me. He'll really get worried when he finds out Johnny and I killed that Soch. Then, for a moment, I pictured Soda Pop's face when he heard about it. I wish I was home, I thought absently. I wish I was home and still in bed. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm just dreaming. It was only last night that Dally and I had sat down behind those girls at the nightly double. Glory, I thought with a bewildering feeling of being rushed. Things are happening too quick, too fast. I figured I couldn't get into any worse trouble than murder. Johnny and I would be hiding for the rest of our lives. Nobody but Dally would know where we were, and he couldn't tell anyone because he'd just get jailed again for giving us that gun. If Johnny got caught, they'd give him the electric chair. And if they caught me, I'd be sent to a reformatory. I'd heard about reformatories from Curly Shepherd, and I didn't want to go to one at all. So we'd have to be hermits for the rest of our lives and never see anyone but Dally. Maybe I'd never see dairy or soda pop again, or even Two-Bit or
That
Stevie.
later. I want to work on
I was
that
in the
shit
country,
part.
but I knew I wasn't going to like it as much as I thought I would. There are things worse than being a greaser. I met a sunburned farmer driving a tractor down the road. I waved at him and he stopped. Could you tell me where Jay Mountain is? I asked as politely as I could. He pointed on down the road. Follow this road to that big hill over there. That's it. Taking a walk? Yes, sir. I managed to look sheepish. We're playing army, and I'm supposed to report to headquarters there. I can lie so easily that it spooks me sometimes.
Me too.
Soda says it comes from reading so much. But then, Two-Bit lies all the time, too, and he never opens a book. Boys will be boys, the farmer said with a grin, and I thought dully that he sounded as corn pony as Hank Williams.
Oh, you finished your base for your
He
mask?
went on, and I walked
Hooray.
back to where Johnny was waiting. We climbed up the road to the church, although it was a lot farther
This is
away
like,
than it looked.
yeah.
The road got steeper with every step. I was feeling kind of drunk. I always do when I get too sleepy. And my legs got heavier and heavier. I guess Johnny was sleepier than I was. He had stayed awake on the train to make sure we got off at the right place. It took us about 45 minutes to get there. We climbed in a back window. It was a small church, real old and spooky and spider-like. It gave me the creeps. I'd been in church before. I used to go all the time, even after Mom and Dad were gone. Then one Sunday I talked Soda into coming with Johnny and me. He didn't want to come unless Steve did, and Two-Bit decided he might as well come too. Dally was sleeping off a hangover, and Derry was working. When Johnny and I went, we sat in the back, trying to get something out of the sermon and avoiding the people because we weren't dressed so sharp most of the time. Nobody seemed to mind, and Johnny and I really liked to go, but that day, well, Soda can't sit still long enough to enjoy a movie, much less a sermon. It wasn't long before he and Steve and Two-Bit were throwing paper wads at each other and clowning around. Finally, Steve dropped a hymn
I don't care, but I need you to move so that I can, like...
Everyone in the place turned around to look at us, and Johnny and I nearly crawled under the pews. And then
I'll do
waved
this, and then I will...
I hadn't been to church since. But this church gave me a kind of creepy feeling. What do you call it? Premonition? I flopped down on the floor and immediately decided not to do any more flopping. That floor was stone and hard. Johnny stretched out beside me, resting his head on his arm. I started to say something to him, but I went to sleep before I could get the words out of my mouth. But Johnny didn't notice. He was asleep too. I woke up late in the afternoon. For a second, I didn't know where I was. You know how it is when you wake up in a strange place and wonder where in the world you are until memory comes rushing over you like a wave. I half convinced myself that I had dreamed everything that had happened the night before. I'm really home in bed, I thought. It's late, and both Derry and Soda Pop are up. Derry's cooking breakfast, and in a minute, he and Soda will come in and drag me out of bed and wrestle me down and tickle me until I think I'll die if they don't stop. It's me and Soda's turn to do the dishes after we eat. Then we'll all go outside and play football. Johnny and Two-Bit and I will get Derry on our side, since Johnny and I are so small and Derry's the best player. It'll go like the usual weekend morning. I tried telling myself that while I lay on the cold rock floor, wrapped up in Dally's jacket, listening to the wind rushing through the trees, dry leaves outside. Finally, I quit pretending and pushed myself up. I was stiff and sore from sleeping on that hard floor, but I had never slept so soundly. I was still groggy. I pushed off Johnny's jeans jacket, which had somehow got thrown across me, and blinked, scratching my head.
Lucky.
It was awful quiet, with just the sound of rushing wind in the trees. Suddenly, I realized that Johnny wasn't there. Johnny? I called loudly, and that old wooden church echoed me. Ani, Ani. I looked around.
Yeah, Ani. Are you there, Ani? Ani.
Written in the dust of the floor. Went to get supplies. Be back soon. JC. I sighed and went to the pump to get a drink. The water from it was like liquid ice, and it tasted funny, but it was water.
Drink the
I
damn
splashed
water.
it on my face, and that woke me up pretty quick. I wiped my face off on Johnny's jacket and sat down on the back steps. The hill the church was on dropped off suddenly about 20 feet from the back door, and you could see for miles and miles. It was like sitting on top of the world. When you haven't got anything to do, you remember things in spite of yourself. I could remember every detail of the whole night, but it had the unreal quality of a dream. It seemed much longer than 24 hours since Johnny and I had met down at the Picket and Sun. Maybe it was. Maybe Johnny had been gone a whole week and I had just slept. Maybe he had already been worked over by the fuzz and was waiting to get the electric chair since he wouldn't tell where I was. Maybe Dally had been killed in a car wreck or something, and no one would ever know where I was, and I'd just die up here, alone, and turn into a skeleton.
Me too.
My overactive imagination was running away with me again. Sweat ran down my face and back, and I was trembling. My head swam, and I leaned back and closed my eyes. I guess it was partly delayed shock. Finally, my stomach calmed down, and I relaxed a little, hoping that Johnny would remember cigarettes.
Should I draw the eyes all black? Okay, probably, if you want.
The dead leaves toward the back of the church, and I ducked inside the door. Then I heard a whistle, long and low, ending in a sudden high note. I knew that whistle well enough. It was used by us in the Shepherd gang for Who's There. I returned to
I'm not really chatting because I'm laying down on the floor and I can't see the thing.
Steps and sprawled flat under Johnny's nose. I propped myself up on my elbows and grinned up at him.
Gay.
Hey, Johnny, fancy meeting you here. He looked down at me over a big packet. I swear, Pony Boy, you're getting to act more like 2-bit every day. I tried unsuccessfully to cock him. Finally, my stomach calmed down and I relaxed a little, hoping that Johnny would remember cigarettes. I was scared sitting there by myself. I heard someone coming up through the dead leaves toward the back of the church, and I ducked inside the door. Then I heard a whistle, long and low, ending in a sudden high note. I knew that whistle well enough. It was used by us in the Shepherd gang for Who's There. I returned it carefully, then darted out the door so fast that I fell off the steps and sprawled flat under Johnny's nose.
Gay.
I propped myself up on my elbows and grinned up at him. Hey, Johnny, fancy meeting you here. He looked down at me over a big packet. I swear, Pony Boy, you're getting to act more like 2-bit every day. I tried unsuccessfully to cock an eyebrow. Who's acting? I rolled over and sprang up, happy that someone was there. What'd you get? Come on inside. Dally told us to stay inside. We went in. Johnny dusted off the table with his jacket and started taking things out of the sack and lining them up neat. A week's supply of bologna, 2 loaves of bread, a box of matches, Johnny went on. I got tired of watching him do it all, so I started digging into the sack myself. Whee! I sat down on a dusty chair and stared. A paperback copy of Gone with the Wind? How'd you know I always wanted one? Johnny read.
You've been talking about them
I
damn
remember
books.
you saying.
Oh my fucking god.
Me and you went to see that movie, remember? I thought you could maybe read it out loud and help kill time or something. Gee, thanks. I put the book down reluctantly. I wanted to start it right then. Peroxide? Deck of cards. Suddenly I realized something. Johnny, you ain't thinking of... Johnny sat down and pulled out his knife. We're gonna cut our hair, and you're gonna bleach yours. He looked at the ground carefully. They'll have our descriptions in the paper. We can't fit them. Oh, no. My hand flew to my hair. No, Johnny, not my hair.
Not the hair.
It was my pride.
It's
It
his
was long
pride.
and silky, just like soda's, only a little redder. Our hair was tough. We didn't have to use much grease on it. Our hair labeled us greasers, too. It was our trademark, the one thing we were proud of. Maybe we couldn't have Corvairs or Madras shirts, but we could have hair. We'd have to anyway if we got caught. You know the first thing the judge does is make you get a haircut. I don't see why, I said sourly. Dally could just as easily mug somebody with short hair. I don't know either. It's just a way of trying to break us. They can't really do anything to guys like Curly Shepherd or Tim. They've had about everything done to them. And they can't take anything away from them because they don't have anything in the first place. So they cut their hair. I looked at Johnny imploringly. Johnny sighed. I'm gonna cut mine too and wash the grease out, but I can't bleach it. I'm too dark-skinned to look okay blonde. Oh, come on, Pony Boy, he pleaded. It'll grow back. Okay, I said wide-eyed. Get it over with. Johnny flipped out the razor edge of his switch, took hold of my hair, and started sawing on it. I shuddered. Not too short, I begged. Johnny, please. Finally, it was over with. My hair looked funny, scattered over the floor in tufts. It's lighter than I thought it was, I said, examining it. Can I see what I look like now? No, Johnny said, slowly staring at me. We gotta bleach it first. After I'd sat in the sun for 15 minutes to dry the bleach, Johnny let me look in the old cracked mirror we'd found in a closet. I did a double take. My hair was even lighter than soda pops. I'd never combed it to the side like that. It just didn't look like me. It made me look younger and scareder too. Boy, howdy, I thought this really makes me look tough. I look like a blasted pansy. I was miserable.
A beautiful blasted
Johnny handed me
pansy.
the knife. He looked scared too. Cut the front and then out the rest. I'll comb it back after I wash it. Johnny, I said tiredly, you can't wash your hair in that freezing water in this weather. You'll get a cold. He only shrugged. Go ahead and cut it. I did the best I could. He went ahead and washed it anyway using the bar of soap he'd bought. I was glad I had to run away with him instead of with Two-Bit or Steve or Dally. That would be one thing they'd never think of. Soap. I gave him Dally's jacket to wrap up in, and he sat shivering in the sunlight on the back steps, leaning against the door, combing his hair back. It was the first time I could see that he had eyebrows. He didn't look like Johnny. His forehead was wider where his bangs had been. It would have been funny if Lou hadn't been so scared.
Oh my fucking god.
He was still shivering with cold. I guess, he said weakly, I guess we're disguised. I leaned back next to him sullenly. I guess so. Oh, shoot, Johnny said with fake cheerfulness. It's just hair.
Shoot nothing.
Shoot nothing, I snapped. It took me a long time to get that hair just the way I wanted it.
Me too.
This just ain't us. It's like being in a Halloween costume we can't get out
Beautiful.
of. Well, we got to get used to it, Johnny said with finality. We're in big trouble, and it's our looks or us. I started eating a candy bar. I'm still tired, I said. To my surprise, the ground blurred, and I felt tears running down my cheeks. I brushed them off hurriedly. Johnny looked as miserable as I felt. I'm sorry I cut your hair off, Pony Boy. Oh, it ain't that, I said between bites of chocolate. I mean, not all of it. I'm just a little spooky. I really don't know what's the matter. I'm just mixed up. I know, Johnny said through chattering teeth as we went inside. Things have been happening so fast. I put my arm across his shoulders to warm him up. Two-Bit should have been in that little one-horse store. Man, we're in the middle of nowhere. The nearest house is 2 miles away. Things were laying out wide open, just waiting for somebody slick like Two-Bit to come and pick them up. He could have walked out with half the store. He leaned back beside me, and I could feel him trembling. Good old Two-Bit, he said in a quavering voice. He must have been as homesick as I was. Remember how he was wisecracking last night, I said. Last night, just last night, we were walking Cherry and Marsha over to Two-Bit. Just last night, we were laying in the lot looking up at the stars and dreaming. Stop it, Johnny gasped from between clenched teeth. Shut up about last night. I killed a kid last night.
Oh.
He couldn't have been over 17 or 18, and I killed him.
He was 18.
How'd you like to live with that? He was crying.
I don't know, I could live with a death. I could actually go to bed soundly knowing I killed someone.
He finally blurted out, but they were drowning you, and I was so scared. He was quiet for a minute. There sure is a lot of blood.
Now, I can go to bed soundly knowing that I killed someone. I don't know, I don't really get guilty over things like that.
It was getting dark, and I was cold and lonesome. I closed my eyes and leaned my head back, but the tears came anyway. This is my fault, Johnny said in a miserable voice. He had stopped crying when I started. For bringing a little 13-year-old kid along, you ought to go home. You can't get into any trouble. You didn't kill him. No, I screamed at him. I'm 14.
14?
I've been 14 for a month, and I'm in it as much as you are. I'll stop crying in a minute. I can't help it. He slumped down beside me. I didn't mean it like that, Pony Boy. Don't cry, Pony. We'll be okay.
Oh, he made kid cry.
I leaned against him and bawled until I went to sleep. I woke up late that night. Johnny was resting against the wall, and I was asleep on his shoulder. Johnny, are you awake?
Caribou, stop switching so much.
Yeah, he said quietly.
I love you, Caribou. You're my favorite
We
dog.
don't cry no more, are we? Nope. We're all cried out now. We're getting used to the idea. We're gonna be okay now.
Are you?
That's what I thought, said drowsily. Then for the first time since Dally and I had sat down beside those girls at the nightly double, I relaxed. We could take whatever was coming now.
Could you?
The next 4 or 5 days.
You're not going to be able to take what's coming for you next.
We killed time by reading Gone with the Wind and playing poker. Johnny sure did like that book, although he didn't know anything about the Civil War, and even less about plantations, and I had to explain a lot of it to him. It amazed me how Johnny could get more meaning out of some of the stuff in there than I could. I was supposed to be the deep one. Johnny had failed a year in school and never made good grades. He couldn't grasp anything that was shoved at him too fast. And I guess his teachers thought he was just plain dumb. But he wasn't. He was just a little slow to get things. And he liked to explore things once he did get them. He was especially stuck on the Southern gentlemen, impressed with their manners and charm. I bet they were cool old guys, he said, his eyes glowing. After I had read the part about them riding into sure death because they were gallant, they remind me of Dally. Dally? I said, startled. Shoot, he ain't got any more manners than I do. And you saw how he treated those girls the other night. Soda's more like them southern boys. Yeah, in the manners bit, and the charm too, I guess, Johnny said slowly. But one night I saw Dally getting picked up by the fuzz, and he kept real cool and calm the whole time. They was getting him for breaking out the windows in the school building, and it was Two-Bit who did that, and Dally knew it. But he just took the sentence without batting an eye or even denying it. That's gallant. That was the first time I realized the extent of Johnny's hero worship for Dally Winston. Of all of us, Dally was the one I liked least. He didn't have Soda's understanding, or Dash, or Two-Bit's humor, or even Derry's Superman qualities.
Don't trash my
But I
man.
realized that these three appealed to me because they were like the heroes in the novels I read. Dally was real. I liked my books and clouds and sunsets. Dally was so really
scared me.
Johnny and I never went to the front of the church. You could see the front from the road, and sometimes farm kids rode their horses by on their way to the store. So we stayed in the very back, usually sitting on the steps and looking across the valley. We could see for miles, see the ribbon of highway and the small dots that were houses and cars. We couldn't watch the sunset since the back faced east, but I loved to look at the colors of the fields and the soft shadings of the horizon. One morning I woke up earlier than usual. Johnny and I slept huddled together for warmth. Dally had been right when he said it would get cold where we were going. Being careful not to wake Johnny up, I went to sit on the steps and smoke a cigarette. The dawn was coming then. All the lower valley was covered with mist, and sometimes little pieces of it broke off and floated away in small clouds. The sky was lighter in the east, and the horizon was a thin golden line. The clouds changed from gray to pink, and the mist was touched with gold. There was a silent moment when everything held its breath, and then the sun rose. It was beautiful. Golly, Johnny's voice beside me made me jump. That sure was pretty. Yeah, I sighed, wishing I had some paint to do a picture with it while the sight was still fresh in my mind. The mist was what was pretty, Johnny said. All gold and silver. I said, trying to blow a smoke ring. Too bad it couldn't stay like that all the time.
Nothing gold can
Nothing
stay.
gold can stay. I was remembering a poem I'd read once. What? Nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold. Her early leaves a flower, but only so an hour. Then leaves subsides to leaf, so Eden sank to grief. So dawn goes down today,
Nothing gold can stay.
Johnny was staring at me. Where'd you learn that? That was what I meant. Robert Frost wrote it. He meant more to it than I'm getting, though. I was trying to find the meaning the poet had in mind, but it eluded me. I always remembered it because I never quite got what he meant by it. You know, Johnny said slowly, I never noticed colors and clouds and stuff until you kept reminding me about them. It seems like they were never there before. He thought for a minute. Your family sure is funny. What happens to be so funny about it? I asked stiffly. Johnny looked at me quickly. I didn't mean nothing. I meant, well, Soda kind of looks like your mother did, but he acts just exactly like your father. And Derry is the spitting image of your father, but he ain't wild and laughing all the time like you was. He acts like your mother. And you don't act like either one. I know.
Because he's special.
Well, I said, thinking this over, you ain't like any of the gang. I mean, I couldn't tell Two-Bit or Steve or even Derry about the sunrise and clouds and stuff. I couldn't even remember that poem around them. I mean, they just don't dig. Just you and Soda Pop. And maybe Cherry Valance. Johnny shrugged. Yeah, he said with a sigh. Guess we're different. Shoot, I said, blowing a perfect smoke ring. Maybe they are. By the fifth day, I was so tired of bologna, I nearly got sick every time I looked at it. We'd eaten all of our candy bars in the first 2 days. I was dying for a Pepsi. I'm what you might call a Pepsi addict. I drink them like a fiend, and going for 5 days without one was about to kill me. Johnny promised to get some if we ran out of supplies and had to get some more, but that didn't help me right then. I was smoking a lot more there than I usually did, I guess because it was something to do, although Johnny warned me that I would get sick smoking so much. We were careful with our cigarettes. If that old church ever caught fire, there'd be no stopping. On the 5th day, I
Don't
added
bring
to
up the
Sherman
church
Siege
fire.
in
Please
Atlantic
don't bring up
off
the
the
church
wind.
fire, Pony
Owed
Boy.
Johnny $150 from poker games, smoked 2 packs of Camels, and as Johnny had predicted, got sick. I hadn't eaten anything all day, and smoking on an empty stomach doesn't make you feel real great. I curled up in a corner to sleep off the smoke. I was just about asleep when I heard, as if from a great distance, a low, long whistle that went off in a sudden high note. I was too sleepy to pay any attention. Father Johnny didn't have any reason to be whistling like that. He was sitting on the back steps trying to read Gone with the Wind. I had almost decided that I had dreamed the outside world and there was nothing real but bologna sandwiches and the Civil War and the old church and the mist in the valley. It seemed to me that I had always lived in the church, or maybe lived during the Civil War and had somehow got transplanted. That shows you what a wild imagination I have. A toe nudged me in the ribs. "Glory," said a rough but familiar voice. "He looks different with his hair like that." I rolled over and sat up, rubbing the sleep out of my eyes and yawning. Suddenly I blinked. "Hey, Daddy!"
Wow.
"Hey, Pony Boy." He grinned down at me. Or should I say Sleeping Beauty? I never thought I'd live to see the day when I would be so glad to see Dally Winston. But right then he meant one thing. Contact with the outside world. And it suddenly became real and vital. "How's Soda Pop? Are the Fuzz after us? Is Derry all right? Do the boys know where we are?" "What? Hold on, kid," Dally broke in. "I can't answer everything at once. You two want to go get something to eat first? I skipped breakfast. I'm about starved." "You're starved." Johnny was so indignant he nearly squeaked. I remembered the bologna. "Is it safe to go out?" I asked eagerly. "Yup." Dally searched his shirt pocket for a cigarette and, finding none, said, "You got a cancer stick, Johnny Cake?" Johnny tossed him a whole package. "The Fuzz won't be looking for you around here," Dally said, lighting up. "They think you've lit out for Texas." I got Buck's T-Bird parked down the road a little way. "Gosh almighty, boys, ain't you been eating anything?" Johnny looked startled. "Yeah? Whatever gave you the idea we ain't?" Dally shook his head. "You're both pale, and you've lost weight. After this, get out in the sun more. You look like you've been through the mill." I started to say, "Look who's talking," but decided it would be safer not to. Dally needed a shave. A stubble of colorless beard covered his jaw, and he looked like he was the one who'd been sleeping in his clothes for a week instead of us. I knew he hadn't seen a barber in months, but it was safer not to get mouthy with Dally Winston. "Hey, Pony Boy." He fumbled with a piece of paper in his back pocket.
Beautiful.
"I got a letter for you." "A letter? Who from?" "The president, of course, stupid." "It's from Soda." "Soda Pop," I said, bewildered, but how did he know? "Came over to Buck's a couple of days ago for something and found that sweatshirt. I told him I didn't know where you
Should
were.
probably
He
check the
didn't believe me. He gave me this letter and half his paycheck to give. Kid, you ought to see Derry. He's taking this mighty hard." I wasn't listening, no.
Reading?
I leaned back against the side of the church and read. "Pony Boy, well, I guess you got into some trouble, huh? Derry and me nearly went nuts when you ran out like that. Derry's awful sorry he hit you. You know he didn't mean it."
I'm gonna go to bed now. Oh yeah, if you want to post a photo.
And then you and Johnny turned up missing, and what with that dead kid in the park, Dally getting hauled into the station, well, it scared us something awful. Police came by to question us, and we told them
Wondering? Amateurs can the green game from the vision now. Like a bird and gets him up and amateurs can fucking suck it. Anyways, where is it? Where is the one edit? Come on. I've already seen this.
I know now he knows where you are, but you know him. Keeps his trap shut.
Not afraid to survive. Some people are white guys in 1985. White guys, 1985. What time is it? 12? What? God, depressing movie, I swear. Well, now I'm gonna end the stream. Kiss, kiss. Ew. I can't. So cringy. I don't know what to do now. Like, who disrespects stuff like that? Dude, we'll never mess with him. We built a house of memories. so fucking hard to do stuff like this. If I see it, pop up my free picture later. Oh, that's enough. Oh, hey, this is my video. Swagging off stage right, not mic. Walk up these hot chicks and I'm like, so babies, made some stadium. Yo, baby. They're like, oh my god, it's him. Oh, you got some of them. Oh. Russian too. Oh. Ooh, actually. Dang it, it's already in there. Anyways, what's up? If you don't like, leave. Right. Christian football team. Not the fact that I just watched a D-Day movie with him tonight. Yo, my For You page is almost out. Oh, that's right. I was gonna make that thing. Let me find the picture. Oop. me spell right. Oh, yeah. I knew a Christian. He was gay. Yeah, I should probably go to bed too. I'm gonna make this. Oh yeah, this is gonna be hilarious. She's gonna love me. See, perfect, just what I was wanting. Perfect. Oh, there you go. I'm drawing something for my friend because I told her I'd do it. Didn't even do it. Ooh, I'm so evil. I have a problem. Oh yeah, I do have a problem. Oh yeah. Photoshop skills could never. Okay. Oh yeah. No, I did really to delete that ugly ass photo off my thing. Oh my god. Oh my fucking god. You? Oh my god. Are you? I love you. Ooh. You were so cute. What happened? Alright. I think I should end. Oh, what? Yeah, I should probably end the stream. Because I should probably go to bed anyways. Because I still have school tomorrow. That's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, I'm gonna end the stream. Goodbye. I love all of you. And I hope all of you have a really good night. And that you